country.
Bravo 6, going dark.
Defeating the radical left, the Marxists, the agitators, the anarchists. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will liberate America from these villains once and for all. As my first order of business, I hereby declare martial law.
You have to take out their families. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families.
Putin's a killer. A lot of killers. You get a lot of killers. Well, you think our country's so innocent?
Death penalty. Bring it forth.
The only good communist is a dead communist!
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism.
Americanism, not globalism.
That threatens the very foundations.
Will be our credo.
I'm gonna bomb the shit out of them. Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory! The world is as angry as it gets. Well, you think this is going to cause a little more anger?
It's going to get worse before it gets better. And sometimes the only way out is through. I'm surprised that this is happening now and not the year of the election. But one way you know that this is a totally natural phenomenon is the presence of the mullah, the malicious mullah, the Turkish tyrant. And I don't even recommend going checking out his coverage. Let me just sum it up for you because it's really funny. Basically, Hassan shows up when all the protesters or the rioters, I don't even know what to call them. I'm still trying to think of the funniest, this is enemy coded term. I guess gorillas, but like the animal, not like Froggy Tonic. Anyway, they were down in the freeway. And of course, Hassan wasn't down there fighting with them. That would still make him enemy coded, but it would at least make him, I don't know, like a respectable enemy. No, he was standing over on the exits, the freeway exit filming. And, he can't just get a normal rag and wear that. He's got to get the Gucci rag, which is what this is. The official, Palestinian protest Gucci run of the rag. And then he's got these sunglasses. I forget. I'm not a sunglass guy, but I know they're like a couple $1,000s anyway. It's like you can't go anywhere without the $10,000 fit, and that really just shows you who the audience really is. And it's like the middle-aged women who want him to look good. So yeah. Anyway, he goes and he covers it for like 2 hours. Then he leaves and buys like $17 ice cream in LA, which is just hilarious. You think that this would be something that he would want to be on the ground for like the whole time, right? So basically the timeline is that because LA is a sanctuary city, they don't collaborate with ICE on detentions, which means that ICE has to work on its own and can't use local connections or anything, which means that what they do is inherently less safe. Like for them, I mean, they have to do crazy stuff to just basically enforce the law. And part of that was mass lightning detentions of a whole bunch of people. And so then, the call goes out through the network to go protest at the ICE detention facility like it's the fucking Bastille on Bastille Day. Everyone shows up. We start throwing rocks at the cops and things. And Trump then mobilizes the National Guard. What I thought was interesting about this, I was talking to people and, the question was, what does Gavin Newsom even do, right? Because there's two options. The first option is you immediately mobilize it yourself to take the weapon out of Trump's hand. Then you alienate all these Hassan-type idiots, which is bad for your electability within California, but it might be good if you're trying to run in 2028. Or you don't mobilize the National Guard, and then the potential is that someone gets seriously injured and killed, or there's what essentially happened, riots, in which case you've now alienated 80% of Americans. Goodbye 2028 election, assuming anyone still remembers this. You know how they can memory hole shit. Instead, he kind of did the worst option, which he didn't call in the National Guard, and Trump did it first, federalizing the National Guard through the 1807 Insurrection Act. So the National Guard, only a couple hundred of them actually got in last night. The mayor is saying stupid shit, saying that they're not welcome. There's also a really funny tweet from Newsom that I'm hoping is in here, where he quite literally says, "We didn't need them. Everything was under control, but now they're here, and now things are bad, and now we need help." So basically, we didn't need help, but now we do, which doesn't make any sense. The other thing is, like, you're just seeing, if you just look up, like, anything, because I was trying to find some studies here to talk about that I had read in the past about the way protests turn into riots, and it's so hard to find any good information because it's like the network is out in full force to justify why somehow not having the police there actually keeps the protests peaceful, which is just not supported by any evidence at all. And the reason is because they don't want to make distinctions in the way like protests actually work. They don't want to make distinctions at the different phases about how protests turn into riots. And it's funny because this is not like an unstudied field. Like there have been thousands and thousands of protests since the 60s. And you can look at which ones go violent and look at which ones don't. And there are all these factors. But if there is one factor that at the beginning of a protest, and this is like from the minute the protest starts, before anyone's even doing anything like disorderly, that determines more than any other whether it's going to turn violent, it is the presence of police. And it's like a negative relationship. If there is no police present, just standing there, when a protest occurs, it almost always turns violent, which is why you always want police present at every protest. Now, that doesn't mean you have the police like immediately suppress the protest. Unless we're talking like strategically from the aspect that these are like all communists or whatever. But just from like a statistical framework, there's this study that I don't have access to, and I ain't giving them money for it. But basically what they do in this one is they break down all the protests since the 60s through like the early 2000s into 4 categories between no police presence, police standing around, police arresting people, and like tear gas, non-lethal, like full force, SWAT shit. And first of all, the impacts of the strategies are temporary. They don't last like for weeks, which is why you need the constant presence, right? You can't just be there at the beginning and then leave. Okay. And the ones that cause the most, basically the worst thing you can do, even more than going full like Gestapo and like beating everybody up, is not have the police there. It is literally more likely that a protest will turn into a riot if you don't have police there than if you have the police being insane. And this is like the distinction that they'll never talk about, because they just presume in all the data you look at from all these like sweepers that the police are there, right? And then they try to say that the police don't help, like that you shouldn't send the police in. And the only reason I'm bringing all this gay, like academic, pseudo-intellectual stuff up is just so that you guys, I'm sure you guys already agree with this, but if anyone tells you that sending in the National Guard was the wrong choice, or that it's what turned it into a riot, that is a complete fucking lie. What turned this into a riot is the fact that the LAPD did not collaborate with ICE to protect the facility. If there had been a police presence on the ground at the facility, local police presence, because that makes a difference too, showing that they were not going to accept that people were going to throw rocks and shit at the original facility, this probably would not, it would have significantly less likely turned into a riot. Now, the counter argument to that is that this is all planned, it was always going to be a riot, activation phrase Ronald McDonald, sure, okay, fine. I'm not even going to say that that's like ridiculous, but if we're just looking from the information we have, if local LAPD police had been there at the ICE facility in force, not even necessarily like beating and arresting people, just there, just standing there, it would have reduced the probability of this turning into a riot. And then here's the other aspect, and this is what I'm talking about when I talk about phases. Once a protest has turned into a riot, you don't go back. At that point, you just have to do like overwhelming show of force, which is why then you send in the National Guard, because it's all about deterrence at that point. It's psychological deterrence. Protests always turn to, and you can, again, this is kind of a more general study, but there's another one that I couldn't find because, like I said, the searches are just so fucked right now because of this, because they're trying to put out everything about how actually doing anything makes it worse, right? That they've broken down some of these protest turns riots in the last 40 years to exactly where on the line and exactly what neighborhood it turned violent first. And it's always the place with the least police. It's always the place where, like, because the thing is, individual rioters are opportunists. They're not like conspirators usually. They're opportunists, and when they see that there's no police presence, they start doing shit like burning cars. And here's some van that last night was like shooting at protesters. What this looks like to me, this looks like the movie Falling Down, where there's probably just some guy trying to drive home from work, and he was just like, "Fuck this."
and people throwing rocks at him, at the vehicle. We don't know which started first. Was he driving erratically? Because when our camera got onto him, it was kind of just starting there, but we don't know whether they were throwing rocks at him first or whether he started driving erratically first. But the erratic driving, we know, continued after that. This is a guy that had no shirt on and appeared to be very agitated because he took off at a high rate of speed, as you see here, with all the people on the streets, law enforcement officers, civilians, everybody that is out there tonight. This was an incredibly dangerous thing for him to do.
Yeah, this was dangerous. Not the giant riot, but this guy driving. I mean, this is dangerous. Don't get me wrong, but it's like the way the news lies to you is sometimes they'll just look you in the eye and lie to you. Like there's a clip here where the lady's like, it's peaceful, and there's like 3 burning cars. You know, the classic fire to peaceful protest, right? They'll look into your eyes and lie. The other way is just by choosing what to cover and what not to cover, or choosing like what to say is a problem and what isn't a problem. It's platform control.
Very high rate of speed, driving around. He went to Alvera Street, got into a collision there, was backing up, driving erratically again. There were several minor collisions with inanimate objects. The vehicle was able to keep going.
These guys are just like playing
eventually
GTA.
Came to a stop, and the sheriff's department, on a mutual aid situation, came in, and 2 deputies arrested him quickly and without further incident. And as far as we know, nobody was hurt. But as you can see from that video, it was a very near thing.
Yeah, okay. So that's one guy. I don't really know whose side he thought he was on. Let's see if anything's literally happening right now. Things are happening.
They're moving again. They are moving again. Clearing out this protest.
So this is what I mean. See how they're not, like, at least right now. Again, like I said, protesters turn riots are crimes of opportunity. It's when they feel like they have either no police presence or they have an advantage over the police. That's why you also want, like, generally proportional amount of police to how many protesters are there. And this is all just to say that any narrative you guys read that the police are why things escalate, no. Lack of police are why things escalate. Now, it's true that sometimes police will be like stupid and start like hitting people for no reason, and that's in this study, stuff like that, and that does escalate to stuff to riots, but it does so at a lesser rate than no police, so it becomes an opportunity cost.
Now they're going to get the press out of there right now. They're going to have to move. Camera's going to have to move out. Maybe. Or maybe they see it's press.
See, I don't know. It looks like they're cooperating now. I don't know. The other problem is that, like, the other reason why there's a police response to protesters, like, the best one is command and control, where basically you do something like this, but then you also need guys all around, like, in sensitive locations, because these people aren't just going to go home. They're going to, like, go other places. And that's what happened last night, actually, is when they got dispersed in one place and they, like, looted, like, a gas station or something. These people don't just disappear. It's also funny just to look at the chat for stuff like this, or it's just constant battle on Mossad. We got Mossad in the chat.
There's a news guy, and the cop had his hands on the news guy because I think the news guy wasn't going where the cop told him to go.
So yeah, there's also the question of, like, you know, let's say you're kind of like a libertarian guys with Asian wives type of person, and you're like, well, I don't like this because the federal government nationalized the state national guard. We should have let the state to do it. The problem is that the California state government is a collaborator with, like, the demographic destruction of its own state and the breakdown of law and order. And then it's like, well, I thought, you know, conservatives are small government. Why do they want the federal government to flex their muscles? Well, we live with the constitutional arrangement that the last 100 years created and was largely created by the same people doing this now, which empowered the president because they thought they were going to hold on to it forever, and they pretty much did until like very recently. And that's even if you believe that Don is not just, you know, another collaborator, right? That's me being optimistic. So if they're going to build this like presidential, ooh, something's happening.
What's happening?
They're going to build this massive executive federal apparatus. I would rather have my guy use it against, it's to the point where it is just sort of like a friend enemy distinction, which is not good for a republic, right? That's not how republics are supposed to work. They're supposed to be the in group, which is the citizens, and then the out group, which is everyone outside.
Oh, the police! Here you go. They're just coming up. Police coming up. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. Because I see the police coming up the stairs.
Peaceful civilians.
Peaceful civilians after 3 days of burning like 16 cars.
Yeah, they move that fast.
It's so funny too, because so many of these like Mexicans and stuff, like the non-Americans, if they were to try to do any of this in like the fucking Colonel republics, you know, like the Colonel republics of Central and South America, and to be fair, some of those were there because we, like, the U.S. intervened and put them there. I acknowledge that. They would just get shot.
And the police chief are speaking. Hold on, they're doing it at the same time.
Okay, we got a statement. Let me guess.
All right, hold on.
Allow pull the National Guard out. Allow anarchy.
I was on and have to go back on, but I'll be back after that for one-on-ones if you have an interest. So good evening, and thank you, Mayor Bass. As of this afternoon, the Los Angeles Police Department is on tactical alert and in a state of partial mobilization. These designations are critical tools that allow us to expand
so now
our
they
operational
mobilize.
capacity.
This is exactly what I meant. Okay, so you
and respond effectively to any unrest or unlawful activity. Let me explain for the public.
This is when you don't. This is too late.
Means in practical terms.
I mean, I guess you have to do it now. Eventually. This has been done 3 days ago. None of this would have happened.
That enables us to reallocate officers rapidly, hold open shifts as needed, and prioritize major incidents. Officers assigned to the field remain in their areas unless they're reassigned. Activities are narrowed to police work of significance or major importance, and officers who are able to return to the field in their areas of assignment. We also notify all relevant command staff, including my office, the Office of Operations, Emergency Operations Division, in order to ensure seamless communication and coordination. In response to current events, we've also implemented partial mobilization of the department, which means we've extended watch hours, deferred days off for some personnel, and alerted off-duty officers to be ready for deployment. Our ability to scale up quickly is essential during this kind of fluid and unpredictable situation.
Your ability to scale up is going to take at least 12 hours, which is why this needed to happen on Friday.
The California Mutual Aid System, with officers and deputies from across Southern California already on the ground in Los Angeles supporting our efforts. We're also aware of reports that the President intends or has deployed U.S. Marines to Los Angeles. The introduction of federal military personnel without direct coordination creates logistical challenges and risks.
Well, why isn't there coordination? Because you guys are a fucking sanctuary city. That's how this started, because you didn't coordinate with ICE.
Alongside our mutual aid partners have decades of experience managing large-scale public demonstrations, and we remain confident in our ability to be able to do so professionally and effectively. We urge full transparency and communication across all levels of government. Our priority is simple: keep both the public and law enforcement officers safe and to maintain order. To the public, we fully support your right to peacefully protest, but let me be absolutely clear. Those who choose to incite violence, engage in vandalism or graffiti, or attack officers will be arrested. There is no tolerance for criminal activity under the guise of protest. And many ask, not a lot of people, relatively speaking, have been arrested during this incident. Well, I would say that I wouldn't argue with you on that, but many more will be arrested as the investigation continues. There will be many more subsequent arrests. Finally, I want to offer my deep gratitude
this is not a complete
to the men and women
vindication
of
of
the
what Trump
LAPD and all of our partner agencies who are out there standing side by side. They're working long hours under intense pressure And what I've seen is professionalism, courage, and commitment to this city has never been more
No, I don't
evident,
expect them to be
than in the
competent.
past couple of days.
You know,
Thank you all very much.
you've got to figure where the Venn diagram is between incompetence and maliciousness, right? Because there's two narratives here. It's that all these people are retarded, and then this is intentional. Okay, well, this guy's gonna talk in fucking burrito. All right, whatever. So basically, this is just a complete like vindication of what Trump did, and not only that, but like I said, the mobilization of a police force the size of LAPD takes at least 8 hours, which is why this is what you do the minute there is a protest at the ICE facility. And they would have been able to do that. They would have known that such a protest was coming if they had been working with ICE in the first place and that they had been strategizing and collaborating since the beginning. But they didn't because of the stupid sanctuary city bullshit. This is a direct result of
with
that.
Their less than lethal ammunition, keeping people, it looks like around a block away or so from that federal building. They're there, and we'll hear what the mayor has to say in a second. So, but a lot going on at the same time here. But those people had been protesting at that building really without any major incident for several hours, but the police said that eventually the police said it was a unlawful assembly, and they cleared them out. We just saw them clear, the federal building's right behind, that's that building back there. So the mayor's gonna speak shortly, and we'll hear what the mayor has to say.
Oh yeah, no, totally, I agree. Yeah, they'll get bailed out by an NGO, assuming that they're even like fully prosecuted. They'll get quote arrested, and then no charges brought or $0 bail or whatever. Totally, 100%, because it happened in 2020. Holy shit, dude! I already gave you my order, man. Can you go to the back and get me my taco? What is he trying to tell me? Cerveza, por favor.
También tenemos reportes que el presidente va a mandar a 700 Marines.
But yeah, so now that they're going full, well, as much as they can in words, right? It's not really going to be that. They're like, oh, we'll arrest everybody. It's like, okay, so Trump was right. You needed to have a strong response to this from the very beginning, especially the minute it turns into a riot. That's the minute you have to have overwhelming force to stop it from spreading, which is exactly what it did the last 3 days. You're mobilizing 3 days late, and the reason you're late is because you didn't collaborate with ICE in the first place, which is why they were able to, there was a perception that the protesters had the upper hand, which is why it turns into a riot. And yeah, I know. I'm expecting them to become. I'm just stupid. I'm assuming that what they're trying to do is prevent this, and that's what I mean between incompetence and maliciousness. Is it they want there to be a riot, so they do it this way, or are they just retarded? I don't know. It's both, I guess.
Y es su derecho de protestar, pero también sabemos que hay gente que viene a causar solo vandalismos y crímenes, y a esa gente los vamos a arrestar. No vamos a tolerar actividades criminales que ocultan como protesto civil. Finalmente les quiero ofrecer mis gracias a todas las mujeres y los hombres del Departamento de Policía y todos los departamentos que están aquí ayudándonos en nuestra ciudad. Gracias por su dedicación y su ayuda profesional. Y les vamos a seguir dando información en
still burritoing. What I want to see is oh, okay. Wow.
Intifada, who is in our Professional Standards Bureau. I'm also joined by Commander Ryan Whiteman, who usually works
Commander Ryan Whiteman.
South Bureau.
Things are going to shit, so they got to get Whiteman in.
This incident is the Day Watch Incident Commander. So I'll take any questions you have. If they're detailed questions, Commander Whiteman.
Question number one, why wasn't this done on Friday?
Yeah, the mobilization is what we do internally to be able to get more officers out there. We had declared that earlier, and now we'll have the ability to have roughly 400 additional officers deployed to the field.
Yeah, how long? Because it's going to take years. Or not years. What am I saying? Sorry, it's going to take hours. It's going to take hours.
May not be accurate based on this thing's continuous.
Not only that, but some of the stats around police departments after 2020 are terrible.
If you will.
Like half cuts. Because and it's not just because they defund the police shit, it's because they quit.
We deal with that with LAPD resources. When we need additional resources, then we reach out to the sheriff, who brings in mutual aid. We have 14 different agencies working with us for that purpose. And then only if we weren't able to continue to deal with that, needed additional help, would we reach out to the sheriff, who would then request National Guard from the governor. So that's one line. The other part then is
It's funny because his answer here is proving why it was smart for Trump to call in the National Guard on Saturday, because it takes forever for these guys to mobilize and get involved. So you have to do it early. And then, because like, I think within 24 hours of him, guard had actually arrived, and only some of them were even doing anything. And then Gavin made like some stupid tweet about how they didn't have anywhere to stay or food and eat. These guys are soldiers. I mean, I get that they're National Guard, right? But the point is that they're not these fucking like gay cops or whatever that are used to like living in their own homes or whatever. Like they're not civilians. Like they can sleep and eat or whatever. Like it's the army. They have their own logistics, dude. And it takes forever for them to get going. So that's why you have to do it early.
Avoiding less lethal weapons being used on people who are merely there in the way, potentially, because it doesn't seem like everyone that's being hit is being attacked, including the big boss is in the building and the I don't know, like it doesn't really make sense that people are just being shot at.
Yeah.
Can you
Sure.
how you minimize or how you not do that?
And look, this is
we minimize it through training, through the equipment we use. It is a target-specific munition. That's not to say that it always hits the intended target, particularly in a dynamic situation.
No, they're coping
I
about
know
the
the
rubber
situation
bullets.
you're referring to with the member of the media. We saw that
Because they
we're
shot
very
some
concerned about
Australian
that, and we're
reporter with
looking
rubber
into that.
bullets. She seemed fine.
Yeah, we're also aware of that, and we're looking at that as well.
I think that's not the priority.
You know, all the streets surrounding the federal building complex, Los Angeles, Temple, Aliso, Alameda, they've all been cleared to push the crowd away from
Right.
I know you can't talk about all of your tactics, but in terms of the benchmarks that you want to hit tonight,
Oh, they're already whining about how they broke this protest up in front of the federal building. I mean, because the last time they allowed a protest in front of the federal
we're
was
trying
the
to
ICE
move them
one,
away
and it started all
from
this.
wherever the threat is. So if there are people assaulting officers, which is often the reason they're taking rocks or bottles or pieces of concrete, then they will attempt to disperse that crowd so that they're not enabled to continue to do that, and move them out. If they can target individuals who've been the ones who were the aggressors, who are throwing the rocks, and they can safely go in and arrest those.
It's 3 days too late. The roach jack. And yeah, I mean, they'll probably do some. Expect to see these photos for the next 4 years. I mean, they're just too perfect, right? Let me look at the list here. There was. I wonder if there's a clip here. There was people throwing Molotovs down at and set one of the. Let me look. Here are some of the. Here's them burning rainbows. There's a really funny clip of a reporter being like, "This isn't violent," and it's not this clip that she's talking over. It's like some of the cars burning. A Marine gunship was flying over LA. Yeah, I mean, they say they're sending the Marines in. The problem is that like a lot of these choices like that, like sending the Marines in and stuff that seem pretty escalatory, could not have happened in the first place had there been a prompt. First of all, had there been collaboration between ICE, if there hadn't been the sanctuary city thing, because this all started, like I said, because there was a bunch of protesters at an ICE facility, and the ICE facility was outnumbered, and so there was a perceived opportunity by specific opportunists to like turn it violent. And that's always how that happens. That's why you have to have the police present in all of these protests. And when I say present, I don't mean that they're like immediately breaking up the just literally there, just standing there. You just have to have enough of them standing there, and then this stuff doesn't happen. But then once it does happen, then you have to, yeah. They ran over some guy here. Yeah, that's why I wonder about the horses, because I remember there being clips from the truckers' riots of some people getting run over by horses. It's pretty bad. I think this is the tweet I was talking about, where it just doesn't make any. It's like two contradictory statements. So so his initial position was you don't need to send in the National Guard. Everything's fine. Nothing's happening, right? This is him saying, please stop. As if like any of these people, the protesters, are reading tweets. This wouldn't be happening with based Brandon behind the wheel. Yeah. Well, that's what people were saying. That's what people were saying is where's like Kyle Rittenhouse and stuff. Oh, here it is. Here's the Molotov cocktail. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. No video though. Lame. Come on. Come on, give me a video. This Kiwi Farms thread is not providing. Well, it is. I mean, it's better than. Yeah, I mean those. I mean, was it like a Blackhawk, like to carry troops, or I mean, it wasn't like an Apache or anything. There's no reason for an Apache to be involved in this. Moving guys, though. I just hope people are saying send in the tanks and stuff, guys. Please don't send in armored vehicles. They're just gonna destroy the roads. The roads are already so bad in all of California. Oh, this is funny. Yeah, it just gets immediately taken down. What an idiot. What an idiot. Oh, look, they're throwing shit. But see, this is what I mean when I say, like, you need to have the police. Because right here, this is, like, a case... this is a case where the protesters, like, clearly outnumber the police here, so it's opportunistic. That's why you have to have, like, a bunch of them here, even if they're just standing here not doing anything. And again, you know, I wish I could pull up the actual stats in here. But like I said, this study breaks down, like, every riot since the 60s into 4 categories. And the category that turns the least into riots is the one, or that turns the most into riots is when there's no police presence. Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame people for saying that this is like an invasion.
Tonight, it might be where they live, it might be their workplace, not novel enough.
I want to hear what cope we get from the mayor.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, I know.
As I'm sure you are aware.
Well, he's not the only one saying there was a civil war. I started streaming after he did this because I wish I was streaming when this happened. When Rudyard Lynch, and I feel his name is out there. He said it. What if Alt Hist? He did his massive schizo post, and before he did that, he said that we were going to have the civil war by April, and there'd be like 20,000 dead Americans. Is this what he was talking about?
Protests, and then also David Huerta, our esteemed labor leader in charge of SEIU, USWW, was released from custody this afternoon. So there was a rally around City Hall that ended up at the Federal Building. It was peaceful. It's my understanding that there's a few hundred individuals that are at the Federal...
So she's talking about the people around this Federal Building. Why don't you talk about what happened the last 3 days?
Building now, but that there's no reports of violence that have taken place today or of vandalism. Of course, with the crowd just there, we will worry as it gets dark as to whether or not there are problems, but we certainly hope that there will not be. I just want to say I started off my morning with a meeting with a number of the leaders from the immigrant rights organizations. And as far as we know right now, there have been 5 raids by ICE throughout the region. I don't know. I know.
Yeah, and it's because you weren't collaborating with them, because you didn't provide them police protection and allowed them to get cornered in their facility that this all started in the first place.
At least 1 or 2 that took place in the city, but we're still compiling that information. As you know, ICE does not tell anybody where they're going to go or when they're going to be there.
Because you're not... Yeah, because you're a sanctuary city. You set that policy. You set a no collaboration, no communication policy.
But I think the thing that was most important about the meeting today was listening to the stories of the people. For example, there was a woman, a mother from Guatemala, who was looking for her husband. She wasn't able to hear about her husband and son that were detained at the Ambiance warehouse. She's not been able to locate him or to communicate with him. And for the most part...
What about the protesters who got run over because this escalated, even the ones who weren't doing anything? What about the cops who got... Like, there's a bazillion victims in all of this. Or what about... I mean, I hate to... I'm not trying to simp for Google here, but like the Waymos, like, getting destroyed, or the cop cars getting Molotoved or whatever, and you're talking to this random, very specific, very bespoke story rather than showing like executive action.
People that have been detained have been denied access to legal representation. This is unprecedented. In the past, when there were raids, lawyers were able to go in and meet with their clients. So she's running around the area trying
They're not citizens. Now, I know that there's a complex legal history about that. In my opinion, the 14th Amendment due process does not apply to non-citizens once they've been determined to be non-citizens. And that procedure, the determination of citizenship, the only reason it's as long as it is because of laws written 40 fucking years ago.
to find her husband, not knowing if he's here, has he been taken to another city, has he been deported out of the country. There was another statement regarding a daughter who was searching for her detained father, and at a certain point she actually saw him moving into a detention facility, but since then, as far as she knows, he has disappeared. She is not able to find out where he is. I can't emphasize enough the level of fear and terror that is in Angelenos right now, not knowing
Yes,
if
why? Okay, thank you. Thank you for bringing up like fear and terror or whatever. The reason there's fear and terror is because there's uncertainty. The reason there's uncertainty is because because of a direct result of your policies of non-communication, non-collaboration with the lawful deportations and arrests caused this riot. That's why it's like spread.
Tomorrow or tonight, it might be where they live, it might be their workplace. Should you send your kids to school? Should you go to work? And you remember this from several years ago, the same type of fear that was going around. But I heard today about something that is so over the top. Can you imagine having your annual appointment to ICE, your annual appointment? You're here, you might not be a citizen, but you have papers, and you are told that you need to go to the facility to check in. And then you are detained, and you...
Yeah, that's the point of the checkup. You know, Karen, I'm sure you have a lot of constituents who are on probation. You know that's how probation works all the time, right? The probation officer calls you in because they know about a violation, maybe because you got picked up over the weekend, and then they arrest you then and there for the probation violation. This is the reason why you have check-ins. Like,
you go with your family and your kids, and the whole family is detained when you were legal and you were trying to maintain your legal status. So what this means then is that people are going to be afraid to maintain their appointments, which then pushes them into... And they will fall.
Or they'll be afraid of violating like the terms of them staying here, of which there should be none. They should all get deported, but you know what I mean.
Out of status and then subject to arrest. This is the kind of thing that is happening in our city right now. And I will just take you back to last Thursday.
That kind of thing, that one immigrant being arrested at their meeting is not what 90% of people in Los Angeles are probably scared of right now. They're probably scared of their city burning down and of this escalating because people are flying a foreign flag. That is probably what they're worried about.
There was nothing happening in this town that called for the raids that took place on Friday. Nothing was
other than a bunch of illegal immigrants and a declaration that we were going to do deportations, which is one of the few things I think the federal government should do. Again, like I said, we've had this 100 years of rewriting our constitution to consolidate power in the executive, which, you know, in a principle sense, I don't really agree with. But if it's going to exist, one of the few things I think it should actually do is immigration enforcement.
Happening. Nothing warranted the raids. If you remember at the beginning of this administration, we were told that raids would be to look for violent criminals, people who had warrants.
No, I'm pretty sure he said he was going to... Didn't Trump run on deporting everyone? Like, he said it multiple times.
But I don't know how you go from a drug dealer to a Home Depot, to people's workplaces where they're just trying to make a living. At Home Depot,
they're trying to make a living at my expense. They're trying to make a living at every American citizen's expense. Because this is not... Like, it is a labor market of supply and demand. And when you import a bunch of labor that can work for less because they don't fall under minimum wage laws, because they don't have to follow the restrictions, you are actively making every American poor, which is how our GDP has doubled in 20 years, and yet the purchasing power of regular people has only gone down. How does that happen if not by an influx of labor? So it does hurt people, just the guy working at Home Depot. It does hurt American citizens, and that's why this is happening. And it didn't have to be like this. It didn't have to become this way if you had a coherent immigration system. Now, you know, in my perfect world, it would be demographic space, but I'm, you know, crazy, right? So, but even anything more moderate than what we have.
Day laborer centers, so that the people that are trying to seek work each and every day will have a place to be, so that it doesn't interfere with the business. These are not the people that we were told were going to be detained.
No, he literally said he's going to deport everybody. Like, you can't... Agree or disagree with deporting every illegal immigrant. Trump did run on that platform.
Makes me feel like our city is actually a test case for what happens when the federal government moves in and takes the authority away from the state or away from local government. I don't think
Democrats
that our city should be used
defending states' rights
to see what happens in the nation's second largest city. Well, maybe we can do this to other cities. And then I read a description of our city that was so troubling to me.
Well, it's funny, yeah. So it hurts normal people and benefits big business. It benefits big business until the basic functioning of law and order and like the social cohesion necessary for a prosperous society breaks down. Then big business gets screwed too, which is why people try to like assign a more ideological basis of like demographic replacements. I don't blame people for thinking that that's a part of it, because long term, I don't even think it's going to benefit big business. You know, I guess there's the idea that once you're rich enough, you flee to whatever the next country is that you can go like. That isn't destroyed yet, but that's not a sustainable strategy.
A city that says that we have been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals, and that now violent insurrection...
Okay, well, there's literally thousands of people waving foreign flags and fighting federal officers. I do not blame people for using terms like invasion and hostile and whatever. Now, insurrection, I don't like the term insurrection. Because it's like the term terrorist, where it's like it serves more of a political purpose by whoever's using it than a descriptive one, but whatever.
Mobs are swarming and attacking our federal agents. I don't know if anybody has seen that happen, but I've not seen
it. You haven't seen that happen? Oh, can we go? Can I can pull this up. Of them literally throwing rocks and shit at ICE agents. Are you kidding me? What do you mean you haven't seen that happen? I mean, I just showed you a police car on fire from a Molotov cocktail, and that was before she said this. Yeah, this is totally not federal agents being attacked or whatever. Like, what are you talking about?
And obviously, there has been violence, and the violence is unacceptable, and we can talk about that in a minute. But to describe our city as a migrant invasion, and that we need to put an end to the migrant riots, and to call on various secretaries.
Again, maybe if they weren't flying foreign flags, it would not. Like, I don't even know how you can say that.
Of the administration to go after our city because we want order to be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. How is this?
See, even her saying it makes it sound like she's trying to say it as like a bad thing, and it sounds based.
A description. This is a despicable description of our city. Our city needs to come together now and not accept this.
The city has come together. It's come together to riot because half of it are illegal immigrants.
Allow us to be divided.
Or their sympathizers, right?
We are a city of immigrants, and we have always embraced that. And if you want to hit our...
Which is not always embrace that. Again, just a historical revisionism. Like, fucking California was 90% white less than like a generation and a half ago. LA had like... California like made like is even like to the extreme of like race mixing and stuff illegal. This idea that it's always been that is just total bullshit. Like they had racial classifications in the 50s or like the 40s and 50s, and it's just again it's like the foundation myth. You just totally rewrite the history. Now you can like argue about how like what's good and what's bad there, but this is just a lie. Is what I'm saying.
Economy. You hit our economy, you scare people from going to work because you know there are sectors of our economy in this city where immigrant labor is the majority of the workforce. So
yes, which is why there's a backlash. Like taking race out of it for a minute, because as much as I'd like there to be a little bit more like acknowledgement that there is a demographic problem, most people who vote against immigration are not actually doing it off race right now. That's why like a lot of Hispanic people vote against mass immigration. They're doing it because of the economic consequences, because a majority of the labor in the city is immigrant. So you either are just admitting right now that a majority of the city is immigrant, which means you're proving the fact that it's a migrant city, or you're saying that immigrants are overrepresented in the workforce, which means that you are directly harming citizens' like ability to participate.
It's damaging. It's damaging to individuals. It's damaging to families, but it is also damaging to our economy. Now I want to talk for a few minutes about the violence and the vandalism that has happened after the protests. We are fortunate in our city to have a well-established institutions that promote and fight for the rights of immigrants. They have protests and rallies often, a couple of times a year, and they never devolve into violence. Well, these protests have, and what typically happens is a fringe element, many times not even connected to the major protests.
Sorry, I was muted there. How is this any different than when people criticize Jan 6? Who, the left will criticize the Jan 6 people who claim that, oh, I wasn't there to be violent. It was like extremists. It was agitators in the protest. It was feds or whatever. Now, there's a lot of proof that there was some federal stuff going on in Jan 6. But my point is that trying to look at this from like a value neutral perspective, this sounds exactly the same.
Takes the opportunity to create havoc and commit vandalism. And I will tell you, it infuriated me, but it also just saddened me to drive through downtown right now and to see the level of obscene graffiti all over buildings. And I just say that anybody that does that, don't come and say that you are supporting immigrant rights, the rights of immigrants. You can't possibly be supporting immigrants and vandalize our city. And understand that if you do that, and it is 100%
Do you know why they do it? Because they are, okay, why do people vandalize at protests? Okay, let's think about this really carefully, Miss Bass, because you seem to don't understand like the very basic psychological impulse of vandalism. It is claiming territory, okay? It is asserting control. And what these people are doing when they do that is they are saying, this is my city, this is my corner, I control this is us. So you telling them that they're not true advocates, it doesn't matter if they control the situation on the ground, lady. And that's the thing, is like the people who are in charge like this are held like, I'm not saying that they wish that they could be less crazy. They are crazy. They'll do whatever they can to stay in power. That's every politician. But they are held hostage by the golem. The golem on the ground, which is the grassroots people like this. That's why Gavin was in such a hot spot, because if he turns on the golem and crushes the riots, he might win over 80% of regular Americans, but he essentially burns the most dangerous element of their coalition. That's why the Palestine-Israel stuff was so informative, because again, it was the golem rebelling.
You will be arrested, and it might not happen that day. So don't think because you went home that night that you are free. There's a lot of videotape, there's investigations that will take place, and you will be held.
How is this threat any different than what Trump said when he was going to crush the riots? How is this any different from the people who want ICE to enforce immigration law? Like, the only difference is that you want more immigration because you think it's going to get you elected, and because you are pursuing an explicit policy of demographic replacement.
Accountable and frankly need to be separated.
And you may probably make money off of the cheap labor somehow, like obviously through lobbying or whatever.
The people who are really fighting on behalf of our immigrant community. And we need to stop the raids. This should not be happening in our city. It is not warranted, and it does the only thing it does.
How can you say half of the labor force of LA are migrants and say that immigration enforcement is not warranted?
Is contribute to chaos. This was chaos that was started at Washington, D.C. On Thursday, the city was peaceful. On Friday, it was not, because of the intervention of the federal government. And it's, again, I don't think our city should be a test case, a laboratory. With that, I'm happy to open up for questions. Whoa.
I don't think our city should be a test case, a laboratory. It has been a laboratory of mass immigration, and this is the result.
What's your reaction to the deployment of 700 Marines?
I mean, we didn't need the National Guard. Why on earth? What are they going to do? Do you know what the National Guard...
You didn't need the National Guard, but apparently you need to mobilize the entire LAPD.
Now? They are guarding two buildings. They're guarding the federal building here in downtown, and they're guarding the federal building in Westwood.
Yeah, obviously, because those are the priorities, because they're federal forces, and those are the ones that are drawing attention, as proven by the fact that this protest is occurring right in front of you that we're watching in the screen is at a federal building.
That's what they're doing. So they need Marines on top of it? I don't understand that. That's why I feel like
you need the LAPD on top of it? Again, you can throw all this back at her. It's like, oh, you think you need to mobilize the other LAPD? Why? How is that not escalating? How is that not as bad as the Marines? You know,
they are part of an experiment that we did not ask to be a part of.
Have you been in contact with President Trump or anyone from the administration? And if you could speak to him, what would you say right now?
I would say stop the raids. Stop the raids, period. I would say give the power back to our governor. And if we need...
Yeah, but they're not enforcing the law. That's the problem. Not only that, but when you say that, stop the raids, it sounds like a threat. It sounds like the riots will continue until the raids stop.
The National Guard, we can do it in the normal circumstances, which is the request is made local and the governor decides or not to grant that to our city.
And have you been in contact with the administration?
I have been in contact with the administration, not the president.
You touched on it lightly, but has the National Guard contributed in any meaningful way in crowd control in the past?
No. The National Guard is guarding the federal building. Now, there was an incident that I saw where there were vehicles that needed to get into the federal building, and so the National Guard cleared the area, and that's where I saw gas, that's where I saw, the flashbangs.
Mayor Bass, when it comes to the people that you're talking about right now on the streets of Los Angeles that are looked at worldwide, what are your sources on the ground telling you in terms of, are the people there with a message regarding immigration being now outnumbered and possibly outrun by these vandals that you're calling?
No, I don't believe so at all. I mean, when you see their numbers, it's when everybody's left. So the crowd could be thousands. And then late at night, by the time you see their numbers, you might see 100 or so. So they're not being outnumbered. And I don't know of anybody that identifies... Are
you serious? They're not being outnumbered? Again, watch the footage of the overpass where it's like 50 cops and thousands of protesters. That's when things turn violent, because it feel like there's a lack of control, because there's an opportunity by bad actors to do shit to escalate.
With them. In other words, they're part of our organization, or they're not. The flyer that was out for the rally on Saturday night was a flyer that had no organizational affiliation. So we don't know what it is.
Yeah, of course not. That way it can't be traced back to the people who are setting all this shit. Yeah, of course. What, they're going to put George Soros on there? They're going to be like, if you show up, $50. Like, they're not going to put that on the flyer. They're going to put that in the Telegram where they organize, which is how this shit all works.
I mean, it could be like what happens with the illegal parties, where people, put out a word and on social media it draws a crowd.
I think a lot of people...
Black Ops 2, yeah. That's a good call.
I'm wondering...
Well, who's going to be the main character here? Is it going to be Kyle? Kyle's going to airdrop?
Powerful if, they got a chance to be lawyered up, to fight back against the back.
Was it Hassan? Hassan was the main character?
Potentially against their violating their civil rights. Is there anything that you can talk about providing legal representation? For example, the city of LA just approved a budget with money for legal representation for immigrants. And so that felt like an uphill battle.
Let me just say that the immigrant rights organizations that have existed here for a long time are providing that type of support. I cannot see...
Yeah, they're also probably the ones who are providing support for this riot in the first place. It's so funny that they can be in the background and like have a hand in all of this, and she just has to sit here and like slurp up their shit, slurp up the mess they've made, you know?
A possibility of the city of Los Angeles bailing people out with city funds.
We're seeing some police activity on the camera. We're seeing police activity there on the camera.
That is a contract with an organization to do that work. We have those contracts.
Police ran in.
I believe that they would end. Right. It will help to negate it when people have legal help. Yes.
These riots are not being caused because a couple immigrants didn't have access to their lawyer. 90% of the people here don't even know what that means. Don't even know what legal counsel is. They're here because it's opportunistic.
I was.
And in terms of your budgetary problems that you're facing, has part of that conversation been about reimbursing the city for longer?
No, let me just tell you that my conversations with the administration was before the deployment of the National Guard. I was trying to make the case that the National Guard was not needed here. I was trying to make the case that the National Guard...
The National Guard was not needed. Explosion.
And it would be like a deliberate attempt to create disorder and chaos in our city. It was very predictable what was going to happen here, and it was completely unnecessary.
You're right, it was predictable. That's why you're stupid, because it's predictable that when you corner a bunch of federal agents by a bunch of rioters, that there's going to be violence.
This was a solution.
Yeah, Rodney King is.
And the party was not happening on Thursday. What they know? What are they looking for? Oh. I mean, I don't have that list, and I don't think our chief has that list. So to me, you would be talking about federal warrants, which means the federal government would have the list of violent federal criminals.
It would be so perfect if while she's doing this cope ski, something fucking crazy happens on screen. That'd be too perfect.
Look at people running there. Police,
well, let me
police
just say, in terms of the immigrant population and other Angelenos, I'm going to do everything I can to keep people safe. And the population of all of Los Angeles needs to know that we will stand with them. We're not going to allow our city to be divided and picked apart. And
you have already divided it. You divided between the people enforcing the law and the people not.
Days, maybe longer, maybe
you
shorter.
divided it between citizens and immigrants by saying that you're taking the side of immigrants' rights organizations, migrants, the majority of the workforce.
It creates a chaos.
That's why that fights like this happen. Because you're creating an us versus them scenario in a zero-sum game.
What we're dealing with now. And they're the federal government, absolutely not. And I hear that the Marines are on the way. I don't know if they really are. You know, I know that there was a post from the administration congratulating.
There was a Walmart looted 2 days ago. Or maybe it was last night. But there was one Walmart looted, I think.
Coming in and saving the day.
Or maybe it was a gas station. There's something looted, but yeah.
I'm getting it from you. Thank you.
Look at we have active. I don't know if that's National Guard or police there. It might be National Guard.
That doesn't look
like
National
property. I'm not sure. Well, that's sheriff. That's county sheriff.
Yeah,
that's LA County Sheriff.
No, the one I know of happens to be happened to have taken place near my grandson's school, so I know that one. But no, I don't know. Claudia Aragon is the director of our Office of Immigration.
I was only going to talk about this for a little bit, but it's just things are actually happening like right now when I've turned it on with these interviews and stuff. Kind of happy because there's not that much. There's some dull coping in the Kino Casino chat. There's a guy who made a couple posts that are really good, and there's Billy Mitchell that I'm keeping on the back burner because it says part 1 of 2. I don't know if that's just bait. And there's a little bit of items, just a little bit. Basically, it fled to Canada.
She said that one of them was near her grandson's school.
But I think there was a question.
Look at this.
Well, it's not necessarily about preparing them, for say, now. It's our office, along with our community partners, have been unfortunately preparing for this moment. Previously, for decades, through the Know Your Rights campaign, as you all know, with the red cards and doing those campaigns.
Yeah, and those campaigns are why people feel like they can just do stupid shit. Because you've been equipping them for this. You've been equipping them for a riot, for asserting their control over the city as a hostile force, like hostile foreign force.
Know how to do pretty well, and it's not really about preparing them, it's about bringing back that.
She just said that they've been
particular
preparing them, and now
portfolio
she says it's
educating
not about
them
preparing.
about their rights
This
and
lady is
really
lowering my
having the
IQ just
element of the
listening to
recently
her. She's worse than Karen
arrived
Bass.
the immigrant population with the migrant buses in our region, and really, with that integrated part of the community, and letting them know what the sanctuary's, region really means, and letting them know what their rights are, and and letting them know that we don't know when the raids are going to happen, and that's why it is important.
Yeah, the reason you don't know is because you declared yourself a sanctuary city and are not in communication with ICE. This was self-inflicted. If that's going to be your cited reason for why this occurred, then it's self-inflicted by definition.
No, and the Chirla hotline is the Rapid Response Network, and so Chirla is one of the leads for that, and a lot of the partners are that. And if you all don't know, the Rapid Response Network works is the
this mission in SWAT would suck.
Sort of like
just wandering around like this, can't do
anyone from the
shit.
public can call the Rapid Response Network, and they can find it in the ACLU website as well. If anyone sees that they feel like it's something like, oh, I think that's like a DHS vehicle, they call and say, I think that's what it is. Any one of the partners that's trained to identify, they send someone out that can confirm that in fact is activity or an actual federal law enforcement vehicle, and they report it back to the network, and they do call back the caller and say, yes, that in fact is.
We got another dumb bike guy. I love how that picture came out and it immediately made this whole thing look so bad. Now people are like trying to copy it. It's because they care more about being in a famous photo than actually serving their agenda, I guess. This photo makes them look terrible, obviously.
Hear our plea: stop the raids. This is creating fear and chaos.
Yeah, so it just sounds like extortion. It just sounds like stop the raids or the riots will. I'll burn my own city down. It's like, okay, go ahead, bud.
Of us moving forward. Thank you very much.
Just a reminder, Chief
All right, that was Mayor Bass, and also the police chief spoke. And we are looking at, you are looking at, hold on, I'll tell you what you're looking at. You're looking at the corner of Main Street and Temple Street in Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles. Police about an hour or so ago cleared a protest from in front of a federal building 1 block over on Los Angeles Street. And a bunch of the protesters just moved to this block. And now there's been some interactions between some police and protesters.
Yeah, well,
block.
this is what I mean is you
again,
can't just clear it out. You gotta like
Temple Street,
keep track of the crowds and have like different layers. Like I said, it's called command and control.
So
right?
we're bringing you live coverage
control.
here. 700 Marines and 2,000 additional National Guard troops, which would make 4,000 total, are being sent to Los Angeles. You heard the mayor said they didn't want them, and they didn't need them, but they're being sent there. So let me say a couple quick thank yous here as we continue our coverage. Thanks so much for your support. MAGA since 1492, TD from Germany, JTAC, that's very kind of you,
We'll see where it is now. Yeah, it doesn't look like much. I'm sure they're not, like I said, that mobilization of like police, that's going to take forever. And this study that I wish I could cite for you, the impacts of repression, the effect of police presence and action on subsequent protest raids. So back to this, the Battle of the Kino Casino thread. Last night, Kill Kino Casino covered this, and he covered my coverage of it. And he had some nice things to say. He also had some interesting perspectives I want to call out, or I want to affirm. Basically, he brought up the idea that in the post when he talks about the PPP hooking up with Worski, that the reason why PPP called up Worski was specifically to create a fissure between him and Ralph. And I think he's completely right about that. As far as the no payment principle, I still think that the only reason PPP and those guys didn't do it was just because they didn't really have an opportunity. Kill Kino Casino is totally right, though, that the minute you're monetized, the content does change. It doesn't always change, like, radically for the worse. It really depends on how audience captured you are, but it does definitely change. I can't deny that. But in this thread, there's a guy, Lit Cigarette, who makes a couple posts that I think is really, really just on point that I want to read. Basically, he just says that Null is PPP's dingo, which is just, making fun of him for such a ridiculous post. And he points out that almost everybody that Null initially collaborates with, they end up having a breakup. And there's a long one here I want to read because it kind of sums it all up pretty well. Here. I remember you saying that you wanted to make yourself and the Kiwi farms more legit. It would be an uphill battle given your sordid past and enemies' willingness to use it against you, but not impossible. The Blockland stuff, ancient history, you were a kid, although, as I discovered, a lot of that stuff he was not a kid, which I understand the purpose of this post. He's trying to, there's a rhetorical strategy in the way he's writing it, which becomes apparent in a minute. But just to be clear, a lot of it, he was not a kid. Stuff with your mother, growing pains, again, he was not a kid, but yeah, okay. The penis, the card, what thing accidents happens. But then the list keeps getting longer. Stuff comes up that's more recent. People might ask why this guy was going guarding for a guy who went on to groom and physically abuse a high school girl he impregnated. And basically his point here is whenever Null hooks up with somebody or like collaborates with them, there always ends up being some massive blow up where in hindsight you're like, how did you not see this coming? Yeah, well, that's kind of what I said in my initial coverage, Alistair, is that PPP, basically it was a strategic choice. He already was in a position where he really couldn't make money, so it makes sense to be the anti-grifter because it's something you can throw at the other guys, right? Kilkino Casino disagrees with that. He thinks there's a principle. That's fine. I understand why. It's just in hindsight, it's hard to believe that, now that we've seen everything. Service providers don't want to do business with you. Banks don't want to process transactions. The point he's trying to make here is that he's been trying to improve his reputation at QB Farms, but everybody he works with only makes it worse because they all end up being like just the worst people possible, whether it's like a dickless molesters or Ralph or whoever. The list of content creators willing to collaborate with you gets shorter by the day. And I, this might not seem to be true because it seems like he's kind of getting bigger now. But let's be clear that it was only a couple short years ago that Josh was able to talk publicly, interview like a giga-normie like Turkey Her Prostate Tom. And you might say that it was like lame for him to even talk to him, sure, whatever. But it does line up with this point is that like the idea that his reputation was bad in the past and it's gotten better is just not really borne out in the facts. And sure, a lot of these people are true loving anti-free. Yeah, a lot of the people who dislike him are doing it for political reasons that we wouldn't like. But there are also a lot of people, like a lot of the KCA logs, like Kilkino Casino and stuff, who I think, these people don't like Josh because they're pro-trans or pro-censorship or whatever. It's because of his own conduct and like recent conduct. And because he's unlikable. He just is unlikable. And now you're courting Ashton Parks, a guy who's kicked out, and just pointing out that, PPP has his own red flags, and it's probably just going to go the same way, right? That he snaked every associate he's ever had. And it surprises me that this has such poor response, because I think that this post is going to age really well. I think it's going to age really well. There's going to come a day when Josh and PPP turn on each other again. One of them does it to the other. It'll probably be PPP on him. And we'll get back to what I showed in the last stream, where PPP's calling him like a pedo, calling him a lolicon and stuff. And then Josh will have like a quote post about it, being like, I did everything right. I did everything correct, right? DSP. But it's going to be like, well, it wasn't exactly a surprise, right? It'll be different with you, right? See, this is what I mean. So yeah, I think this is a really great post, and it really just kind of boils down exactly why his like PPP stock, and he says it in the post, Stockholm syndrome thing is just so bizarre. And it's just like time is a flat circle, man. Like you're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again forever. And a lot of people get mad at him, get mad at that post, even though, like I said, I think this is going to age really well. And there's precedent for that. There's so many posts on this website that when they're first posted, they get like bombarded, right? Just look at the boogie thread. Look at the first couple pages of the boogie thread where people are like, oh, this guy's not a lolcow, he's whatever. And it's like, that's ridiculous now, right? There's one more post by him that I want to take a look at. It's him saying that he's concerned trolling, but not actually responding to the material of the post. And I'll say the same thing I said to the concern trolling video. The way that you should interact with concern trolling, obviously, is either ignore it, but if you can't ignore it, like Null can't, then just evaluate the advice. Just evaluate the content of the post. Don't try to evaluate the motive, because you're not going to get inside this guy's head, and trying to is just crazy, right? Just look at the claims being made, and if there's truth to them, then like consider the advice. And the fact is that the narrative that Lit Cigarette puts in that post is true, regardless of whether you think his motive is to troll you or not. Where is it? And he calls out the people defending him. He calls him a loser, basically. Fair enough. But again, like he brings up, the only reason he brought up his age and like his lack of accomplishments is because he brought up his age, right? Is that he's a big boy, he can make his friends. As if you would need to assert that. Of course you can. He's just saying that like you keep making mistakes over and over again. And the other point he makes here in one of these posts is like, why is it even controversial to shit on a glowing post like that, or to shit on the hosts? If the point of this thread, the point of these threads is the A-log, right? Is to talk about these figures. Now you can have a balance between fans and not fans, and that can be fun sometimes. In the gym thread, especially in the times when Null isn't intervening to fuck it up, you can get some funny debates between the two sides, and that's fine. But again, we're on an internet forum dedicated to discussing locales and their happenings. I posted in the thread to talk about how you're writing love haikus. As far as I can tell, my sly little bitch game is this: using an internet forum dedicated to discussing locales to discuss a Yeah, it's like, this is the purpose of the thread. Is this a fan thread? And I'm surprised no one said it yet, especially this guy, because he's so on point. But why not just move this to multimedia? Because that's usually the way it works, is when it's just explicitly a fan thread, it's out of the locale boards. But And like I said, the original population of this thread was former PPP fans who don't like him anymore, and we're A-logging him. KKK says that this is the worst thread on the site. I disagree with him, not because I think this thread is better than he did. I agree with him. I pretty much completely agree with him on all his criticisms of this thread. They don't actually talk about any of this stuff. Like, they don't talk about the Beezer stuff at all, even though it directly pertains to the show and is hilarious and is crazy. They don't talk about the hernia. They post like a couple, but anyway, it like doesn't serve the purpose, the alleged like stated purpose of the website. The only reason I would contend that if it's the worst thread is just because there's so many bad threads on this website that you might be able to find ones that are even crazier, or at least as crazy. So it's like in contention. There's another, like I said, I think there's like one more here where I don't even think it's him responding to Josh. I think it's him responding to another guy. Here we go. To the people who are saying I should stop talking about it because it's not that serious. Of course, it basically says, I know it's not serious, but this is the thread, right? This is the purpose of the thread. To the people who are saying I'm ordering Josh and whom he's allowed to be friends with, he doesn't say that. He's just saying you keep befriending people who turn out to be like terrible, and it keeps hurting your reputation, and you keep telling people that your goal is to fix your reputation. So it's like, leave Joshy alone. Yeah, it's cucked, right? The people saying PvP has changed, I don't know how I don't even think anyone has said that. I'm glad he put it here just to point out how ridiculous it is, but I actually don't think anyone has said that PvP has changed, because it's just, he hasn't, right? He has changed, just for the worse. Oh, I remember what the other thing is. It's the Josh is poor thing. So like, Josh has done this thing recently where, so for a very long time, he couldn't make money off having a website because he's debanked and because he can't process payments and all this stuff. And that was like a big motivation behind the internet freedom society thing. And those are causes like I believe in. I don't like debanking. I agree with all that stuff. Not necessarily Josh, but just those principles. The problem is that he finally is starting to get a little bit more replatformed through Give, Send, Go and stuff, and has just done fundraisers that have made over $100,000. So what this guy points out is either Josh is poor because he has to spend all the money that he's gotten the last year on defending the site, doing whatever, or he's not poor and he's just lying. It's not, PPP, war has changed. Mission objective, whatever it takes. PPP has changed. Exactly. But yeah, it's like you can't have both. Either he's poor, in which case the business is not working. Because even though he has a ton of revenue, the costs are too high. And he's just a bad business. It's a bad business model, which is what he says. Or Josh is lying that the money is fine. In which case, don't go around and complain that you're poor. Like, just say, hey, things are going well. Like, just, that's all it would take. But the problem is he's complaining in this very thread about being, like, debanked and stuff. Define poor. Yeah. So that's the other question. I guess what the way he's defining it is he pulling in more money than he's spending on the website? That's what I guess we mean by poor. Because that's what Josh would complain about for years is I can't monetize, I can't process payments, I'm debanked, I'm etc. And it makes it very hard to run the website. And the website is very popular and I should be allowed to make some money off of it. And I kind of agree with that principle. It's like everybody else is making all this money online. How much should the guy be allowed to? Well, I'm not saying he's allowed to be worth as much as he wants. I have no problem with people making money on the internet. I've said this before. That has never been my issue. The issue is you can't go around and say, I don't make any money, I'm not making any money, and I need your help. And then also say, and then also like try to make the argument that he is. Because like I'll read this post. The reason I say that Josh is poor is because Josh says he's like, he says this all the time. He says all the time, I'm not making any money. I can't monetize the website. The website costs more than I pull in, right? He said that in this thread, like a couple pages ago. He's always the one going on about how shitty his financial situation, keeps flip-flopping, whether he's going to quit the forum. And that's true. He used to say this on Mad at the Internet all the time, whether he would go. I just look at this at face value and repeat it back to you guys. It's true that Josh raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over the past month. But I also took Josh at his word that almost all of it either went towards legal funds or upkeep costs for the forum. It's not impressive to earn a lot of money for a business if the same business eats all your earnings and leaves you in the red. And this is the reason he's responding to this is because this guy is saying, oh, well, how can you criticize Josh for working for Kingdom Casino when he's making so much money? Well, that's not what Josh says. Josh says he's not making money. He said he has to do all these fundraisers because otherwise the website would fall apart, because otherwise it would not be profitable. Now, if you're implying that Josh is lying about his financial situation and he's actually well off, that the only reason he did the 100K legal fund was because he saw how successful, and this is like the conspiracy theory. What I'm saying is that both of these can't be true. Either he's doing all these legal funds because he can't monetize otherwise and the website would go down and he's just breaking even, or he's making a ton of money, so you shouldn't criticize him for like who he's choosing to be friends with. You shouldn't criticize, you shouldn't call into question the fact that every friend he's ever made has turned out to be some like his Dick Masterson, Ethan Ralph, whatever. You can't really have both. Personally, there has been transparency for some of the financials, but there hasn't been for others. And I'll give you an example. The 100K legal fund, I don't know where all that money has gone. Now, I know some of it because a lot of it was originally raised to sue someone for a tweet claiming that he was like a pedophile or something. Fair enough. It was going to be a defamation thing, a proactive lawsuit. Fine, I'm okay with that on principle. That didn't end up materializing, so it just sort of sat around. Now, that's a case, and then he said that money was going to go in the Internet Preservation Society. Now, the Internet Preservation Society is a 501c3, but I don't think it's actually done anything, any reportable action yet, to where we could actually see a lot of the finances there. Now, again, I'm not saying that the money's like stolen or anything. I'm just saying that it's clear that these are two different ventures, the 501c3 and the website. But then he also did a fundraiser to run the website. He set like what the running costs are, and then raised over that. Okay, fair enough. I would be fine if he set a profit margin on that, and he said, I'm asking for this money and I also want to make money. Like, at least if he was open about it. But the thing is that that's not the way he discusses these issues. He discusses these issues, like I said, when I say Josh is poor, you're asking like, what is poor? I'm not the one saying he's poor. He is the one saying he's poor. He says it in this thread. He is the one saying that he's barely breaking even and stuff. You can't say I'm poor and barely breaking even, but also don't question my choices of who I'm friends with online because they're paying off, like they're making me money. It was to sue a service provider. So specifically, it was to sue the representative of a service provider that was claiming that they had cut service to him because basically they tried to claim that the website hosted illegal content, which it does not. And he was right to threaten that. I'm fine with that. And the provider retracted, exactly. And so then the idea was that the money was going to go to the 501c3, okay? Now, one place that he's been very transparent about that I do like is the money for the Rekieta body cam. He's like straight up posted the bank account trust, like the money held in trust for that. And that was because, and I think the reason he's been transparent about that is because Harden is involved in that. And so he wants all that crossed and T'd. Anyway, ultimately, back to this post. The reason this post is interesting is because either he's barely breaking even or he's making money. If he's making money and that's the reason why you shouldn't be questioning him on him making stupid decisions about who he's friends with, then don't try to say that he's poor. And if he's poor, well, then maybe we should be questioning about him continually making friends that ruin his reputation and prevent him from monetizing. That is the ultimate point here, because one of the greatest argument, like one of the things that he argues is that I'm debanked, my reputation is ruined, all the bad stuff I did was in the past, and now I'm getting better and I'm still being punished for it. Well, the problem is that you continue to be friends with these guys who end up having terrible reputations, whether it be Dick Masterson, Ethan Ralph, or PPP, and that is almost certainly also contributing to you not being able to have opportunities, you not being able to work with other more normie type content creators who can help you make money and stuff. And that's like his point pointing this out. And that's what he's saying here is he's just trying to ask this guy, do you think that Josh is barely breaking even? In which case, then he maybe should be listening to advice about his reputation because that directly impacts his ability to make money. Or do you think that he's lying about being poor, in which case he has money and he's fine, and that he shouldn't have to worry about the reputation thing? And it's sort of, the problem with this dilemma is in this one, you have to say that he's lying, which obviously these guys don't want to do, and we don't have proof of, to be honest. And the problem with this one is then it's like, well, then maybe he should consider who he's working with. He needs to take more, I agree. And I talked about that in my Josh stream. A lot of his problems are self-inflicted when it comes to interacting with the forum, is that he's very reflexive. I don't think there's a lot of planning, and that's fine. There doesn't need to be planning for every post from him or whatever, but a lot of times he's in a bad mood, he sees a thread, he spurgs out and says something stupid. This guy, Benzo Samurai, this guy's a kinographer. He's based as fuck. All right, that's all I wanted to talk about. Update on that. So Anissa shit. We have some footage of him sparring, and this is specifically the video of, I mentioned in the boxing coach interview that there was apparently a guy who Anissa was like cooming over beating up Ian, and the only sparring footage that they ever posted really was him getting beat up, and that's this little 2-second clip here. Hold on, sorry. There you go. Yeah. And so then they ended up finding this guy, Gabe. Turns out he has like 7. He has domestic violence charges. I don't want to say specifically because we're getting into per se defamation there, but he has domestic violence charges that they found on him, which is just funny because like it's just such a Anissa like narc crazy thing. So after the boxing coach interview, people were speculating. What is their response gonna be? My prediction in the video was that they were gonna respond. And they were specifically going to respond to the claim of them not paying Mike. And the reason why is because, like, they're narcs, and also iDubbbz is autistic. So I feel like iDubbbz would not understand that the real issue, the primary issue people have with him is that how abusive and how codependent his relationship with Anissa is, and how that abusiveness and how that codependence directly results in them treating everybody around them like shit. And being constantly angry at everybody, talking shit about everybody, and not being basically because their most intimate relationship is not symbiotic, it's not positive, it's not supportive. They then look at the outer group of relationships with their friends and expect those to be even worse. And that was really the point. It was not really so much that he didn't get paid. Obviously, that's bad too. That's just like a capstone, and that's why Ethan immediately jumped on it and said, "Sure, I'll pay," right? Because it's an easy thing for him to do to get a win. And so I expected that their response would be to contend that they didn't get paid, make some stupid, like very specific argument where it's like, well, he didn't fulfill these conditions of the contract, so that's why he didn't get paid. And also, he was a shitty coach, basically. Like, do something like that, which would have been a terrible response. Because again, it doesn't address why that interview was so fucking destructive. But they didn't. Instead, we got a cope here about how the Discord mods are doing good, banning the last 3 people in their Discord. So there's this account that got made that's dedicated to getting... So Anissa has pinned this sparring match with Mike, the boxing coach, and him. And Mike specifically asked for this to get taken down. He's like, you don't have my permission. I don't want to be associated with you. Go away, right? And she won't do it, right? Because this is like it would be a narcissistic injury to her for her to take it down. And so then people have been like trolling this post. So they got a community notes on it saying that he alleges unpaid bonuses, being fired for reminding Ian of his dad, and politely asked Anissa to take down, and they haven't. So there's this. Then there's this Twitter account that's dedicated. Has Anissa deleted her twin tweet yet? And he claims that they found the Gabe guy, the one who was beating up Ian, to speak. I don't know if this is really him or if this is just they found a guy that looks like him. It doesn't really matter.
Fuck. I would suggest to take down your pinned tweet. Fuck me. Fuck yeah.
This is who Anissa was crushing over. This was who Anissa wanted to cuck iDubbbz with.
Yeah. Michael suggests you take down your pinned tweet. Fuck me, fuck yeah, but you haven't deleted. Fuck me, fuck yeah. Ooh. Michael suggests to take it out. Fuck me, fuck yeah.
Incredible.
And I know Kate Briggs recorded it, and
this is what CTE does to you. This is the CTE boyfriend Anissa never had. Well, I guess IDubbbz is the CTE boyfriend.
Michael, trained to box your tweet. Anisha, it's probably offensive, and I would suggest you take it down. You don't want to get canceled. Anisha, Jomha,
I think she's canceled, bud.
I would suggest you take out your pin tweet. You don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to get a lot of people unfollowing you. Fuck me, fuck you. You don't want to get a lot of unfollowed people, and you don't want to get canceled. So I'd suggest to take out your pin tweet. I would suggest to take it down. You don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to get in trouble. Yeah. Fuck me, fuck yeah.
Incredible. So yeah, that's totally him, guys. It's totally not just some crazy schizophrenic this person found on Fiverr. So the bull speaks. The bull speaks out. So their solution to all this drama is to flee to Canada. And, you know, people are speculating why they're fleeing to Canada. Some say it's to go to Edmonton to visit Anissa's family to sort of like commiserate with them. I disagree. I have a novel theory for why I think they're fleeing to Canada. Here's this in terrible resolution. At least they brought the dog. That's how you know that they're planning on being there for a while. Because they've talked about locking the dog up before, so it's not like they give a fuck. Amazing backdrop, and he looks, yeah, he's got some great posture here. I think that the reason they're going to Canada, I shit you not, this is going to sound crazy, but let's consider this in the context of the coach interview. I think that Anissa thinks that if they stay in the U.S., they are in physical danger. That's what I think that she thinks, because, and this is a combination of two things the coach said. Number one, how Anissa always talks shit about the U.S., about how dangerous it is, how everybody's a fascist, racist, everybody has guns, they'll kill you at any moment. Which, of course, was funny because then she was the one that made them buy a house in America, right? So it's that, and then combined with her hysteria over thinking Sam Hyde was literally going to show up to Creator Clash and kill them. So I think that Anissa's first thought of being exposed for being total pieces of shit, for being pathetic, isn't, damn, I need to self-reflect and apologize, or even just go, like, ride into the sunset, you know, just go offline, right? Her immediately response is, how is this going to hurt me? It's not, I've done something wrong. It's, how is this going to hurt me? And because she has this tendency, as explained by the boxing coach, to catastrophize and immediately be like, no, we have to do this right now. You need to buy me a house right now. No, we need to do blah, blah, blah. She's probably immediately like, someone's going to come to the house in Seattle and shoot us. We got to go to Canada. We got to go to Canada right now where it's safe, where nothing ever happens. And so then they're fleeing to Canada. And I wouldn't be surprised if they stay there for a while, if not just straight up buy a house. I think that's exactly what happened. I think it's going to come out that that's exactly what happened. Like I said, the other prevailing theories I've seen, most people seem to think it's just they're visiting their family, they're going offline or whatever. I think that all those are too normal. Those are two normal responses. That's like what a normal person would do, is they would go spend time with family, they would go out in nature or whatever. No, I think that based on the way they seem to respond to everything in the boxing coach interview, Anissa probably pulled Ian and said, they're coming to our house right now. They're going to kill us because of what was said in the mic interview. You know, of course, not thinking, well, maybe the mic interview revealed that we're like abnormal, that we're not behaving correctly. Maybe we need to fix that. Maybe we need to reflect. No, she's just thinking, this is going to hurt us, right? It's just total like lizard brain, essentially, like narcissist lizard brain. She's like, they're going to come to the house. They're going to shoot us because we didn't pay a $5,000 bounty. We got to flee to Canada. And because of her delusion that somehow just crossing the border would, assuming that was even an actual realistic threat, that just crossing the border will save them, they're fleeing to Canada. And Leafy got unbanned on Twitter. I'd like to make a prediction for how long he's going to last. And when I say last, I don't even mean unbanned, because he'll probably stay unbanned. But if you recall, the reason why Leafy went away last time was not because he was banned. He could have stuck around. It was because he came back after a couple of years, didn't know anything about anything that was going on because he had spent 5 years doing drugs and losing his hair, and decided to do that debate. He tried to host some debate with Nick Fuentes, and not understanding that everybody hates Nick Fuentes now, or not now, but back then, and still does, decided to essentially take Nick's side, incorrectly thinking that that was like the popular choice. And then that's when people started calling him Sweepy. And then he got so much backlash to that because Nick is so indefensible and such a fed and such a piece of shit, and just Like, it's more than just Nick is a Fed. Everything he tells young men to do is just bad for them, pretty much. He's like, no, don't get married. Like, no, don't have like a healthy relationship with women. No, don't like get in shape. No, don't improve your life. Just be retarded, okay? And so, you know, him taking that side, himself being a bald drug addict with no wife and no kids, didn't help. And so he ran away, and I think he also got banned, but that's not why he went away. So now he's back. I think there's going to be a similar event where he like jumps in without knowing what's happening. However, this is a great opportunity for him, because now that he's seeing, oh shit, everybody's jumping on iDubbbz, he might jump in on iDubbbz, which might give us some Kino. I'm hoping that there's some kind of crazy like Twitter Spaces with Leafy, where he uses like basically people are going to want to go on it because they're going to see him as an opportunity to provide a platform where they can say whatever they want and be insane, and the only person that's going to get hurt is Leafy, which is exactly what happened last time. And I'm hoping that it leads to some crazy streams where iDubbbz gets totally destroyed, people say crazy stuff that's totally unsubstantiated in its Kino, and then he'll crash out and either go back to ketamine or whatever the fuck. And yeah, this Twitter, I'm sorry these are all low. I'm so dumb, I pulled up the fucking thumbnails. But anyway, this Twitter dedicated to getting her unpinned. He got blocked. And again, this is like the low IQ narc thing, because if Anissa really wanted to show people she doesn't care, she would not be doing this while she's on this trip. She would be like, I'm unbothered, and all that stuff. I don't know. Here's the Billy Mitchell thing. There was another... Let's see if anything's happening back in the riots.
Well, that's California Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
It says.
They said they're
California Highway Patrol? Maybe? I see CHP. It is California Highway Patrol. I was trying to figure out Main Street and what.
Damn, this guy looks like a unit. This guy looks like a fucking, like, video game boss.
Main Street and something. People walking over there.
I wonder if we missed anything interesting. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, that's what thank you. It was with Jaden. That's what I was referring to, is that he had a debate with Nick Fuentes. He hosted a debate, and yes, it was with Jaden. And yeah, exactly. He muted. That's what I mean, is that he perceived that Nick was the like more popular, like the strategic choice. Because obviously Leafy doesn't know shit about any of the like shit with Nick or the politics or anything. And so he perceived that Nick was the cool one, so he sweeped for him by muting kicking Jaden, and then that destroyed him because obviously he didn't recognize that everybody fucking hates Nick, except for like his super siloed cultists. Yeah, Jaden didn't recover. It's a shame too, because I think Jaden did well. There's a couple points where him even engaging over the problem is Jaden is too close to the story. And there's just too much dirt on him as far as the like weird Spider-Man date and stuff. The other problem, likewise the problem though, is that he knows all the dirt, right? So that's kind of why, and I don't mean to give a compliment here to KC, but KC was kind of necessary in that whole arc because they were the ones who filtered through Jaden's dirt.
Oh, this is Did I figure out where this was?
Are they really putting on masks?
They're putting on masks now. They're putting on masks. I think it might be Main and First. Is it Main and First? Yes, this is Main Street and First Street. It is Main Street and First Street. That is where in downtown LA. And it is looking to the southwest.
Yeah, man. Rodney King is turning in his grave. This is weak. This is weak sauce. They're already falling apart 4 days in. It's probably because they heard that the military's coming in and people are just like, oh, I say I go back to work now. I no fight with 700 Black Hawk Marines. Yep, exactly.
AZ Intel posted a clip from CBS News of the protest there with tear gas being deployed in Santa Ana, California. I just posted AZ Intel's post in the chat.
Federal building from the front entrance there at the federal building.
Bombs, if you will, are coming from law
And this
enforcement.
is pretty much what we've been. Right. Yeah. And then what sounds like an M80 or something being set off. We've heard a few of those this afternoon. Not clear exactly who is throwing those, but people are now starting to run and scream. But as I said, we haven't seen any arrests here. The federal officials are maintaining their position there at the front doors of that federal building. That's clearly a firework. Commercial grade fireworks, very powerful. Dangerous, of course, if people get too close.
It's funny because M80s are illegal in California. So whenever you want to ever want to celebrate the actual country on 4th of July, you're not supposed to have those, but these people do.
So this seems to be kind of the center of it. But Pat, what I was saying is the immigrant groups and these rapid response networks.
Are there going to be more protests tonight? Again, it does look like a much more organized, forceful police response downtown in LA today than yesterday. Yesterday seemed
it's almost like this works.
Disorganized, at least to my amateur eyes. But this seems more forceful today, and maybe they've resolved not to do things to not let what happened yesterday happen again, or try not to.
Yeah, amazing, incredible. Yeah, I wonder. It looks like Ethan is covering this, dude. I bet he has the most high elf ass gay take where he's like, "What? White people should just let their city get burned down, and all these like Mexicans fly a foreign flag. That's so like problematic."
There's some people protesting in Austin, Texas as well.
You got to remember that even though he's kind of the good guy in the IDubbbz thing, in all other ways he's not. Also, this is them at Denny's. They decided to totally not care about the drama by posting that they eat goy slop at Denny's. Incredible. So we got this Billy Mitchell video that's been out for a couple days now. This is his response to Carl Jobs. Obviously, we know that Billy is the king, that Carl is gay. He watches Pornhub every day and shares it with other people. He named his son after his penis. He played the same level in Goldeneye 135,000 times. Are there any white people in LA? Yes, there are. LA was majority white less than a generation ago. What else did Jobs do? He sued Billy, lied about why he was suing, took money based off of that lie, then lost anyway. The judge completely destroyed him. And then Billy has just been destroying him on Twitter. So let's see what he has to say. I don't know if he's going to say anything new in here. I hope so. I hope he drops in here I don't know. I don't know what he would have. I guess he would have a perspective on the court case. There might be some stuff that was said in court that's not public that he could attest to.
Greetings, everyone. I originally didn't plan to create a video relating to Carl Jobs. I felt the judgment spoke for itself. However, after Carl Jobs' response video and a few other statements by him, I feel compelled to speak. I also feel that this video provides a good opportunity to correct a few past claims by Carl Jobs. But first, Ricky's world famous sauce is running a sale. Get 10% off.
All right, you're the king, man, but I'm not going to watch your ad. Do not watch the ads. Do not pay for anything. Pirate everything you watch. Okay? If I ever get monetized on this channel and I run ads on the videos, you have my permission to run ad block.
Firstly, Mr. Jobs claimed that he couldn't disclose.
You don't need my permission, but my point is, you should always lock ads whenever possible.
The subject of the lawsuit to his viewers is false. This is because the claim, which is the document that I filed in court to sue Mr. Jobs, in which I clearly set out why I was suing him, is a matter of public record. This means anyone in the world.
Yeah, I'll be real. His hot sauce does look good. And the way he did a little video demonstrating, but like when you put it on like a paper towel, it's not all just vinegar, which I'm surprised because a lot of hot sauce is all just vinegar. I'm not like a hot sauce guy, but yeah.
Can go down to the court and ask for a copy, and the court has to supply that document to them. I essentially published that document to the world at large, and as such, I could not possibly claim that Mr. Jobs or anyone else had defamed me if, for example, they sent a copy to their fans, so they could understand the dispute and know what it was about. He also could have done this by acknowledging what he said was false and given a genuine apology. Australian
Yeah, I mean, that's the funniest thing is all you had to do, like all you ever had to do was just retract the specific statement about him killing Apollo Legend, because Billy had already dropped the shit about cheating. And, other people say, I don't give a fuck that this guy cheated at some 40-year-old video game. He is like the actual adult in this situation.
Law clearly states that an apology is not an admission of guilt. In a 2019 case, the Supreme Court of Queensland stated, at paragraph 17, the fact that the defendant wished to contest that their publication conveyed the defamatory meanings contended for by the Wagners was not a good reason to continue to refuse to issue a public correction, retraction, or apology. The law has long recognized
that... so he's just citing a precedent in Australia that basically just because you want to keep fighting the case doesn't mean that you shouldn't issue a retraction. And this is funny because that was Carl's whole argument. He's like, well, I couldn't do an apology because then I'd ruin my case, even though he's saying here that and his lawyers would have told him that. So it's just all ego. And we don't even need to speculate, because Carl's like whole Discord gets leaked and he just talks about, I said this in my Carl video, like the sort of stuff that Carl talks about in his Discord openly is the sort of stuff that I would only ever say under the veil of like a legally enforceable attorney-client privilege, non-disclosure. Like when he says stuff like, so yeah, here's my entire bankruptcy strategy, or yeah, so I'm going to totally rape Billy if I win this case, and I'm a totally malicious actor. It's like, dude, that guy's lucky this case was not in the U.S., because U.S. Barrier for defamation is obviously higher than Australia, but the punishments that you can get if you're like a malicious litigant are really bad. I mean, I guess he did get raped. He owes him like $1 million, but...
That a defendant may formulate
such
a
true.
statement...
If he cheated, it is based, because that's what a gamer does. A gamer wins at all costs. A true gamer. When the gamer revolution happens, and the gamer aristocracy of people who built their own PCs rules over the like Bitcoin slaves who are mobile gamers, no one's going to care if they had... a modified controller that let them shoot their Halo 2 battle rifle past what a normal person could pull the trigger. No one's going to care.
While not admitting that the meanings were in fact conveyed. Secondly, Mr. Jobs' defense that his GoFundMe campaign intended to crowdfund for a second potential lawsuit, but redirected the funds to the existing lawsuit after the second lawsuit never materialized is bullshit. I say this based upon 3 facts relating to Mr. Jobs' financial situation at the time of his GoFundMe campaign and the timing of his GoFundMe campaign. To start, I'll state these 3 facts and then place them into context for everybody. 1. Notch, the creator of Minecraft, funded the early...
Wait, what is a game if there aren't rules? Here's the thing. We're called gamers, but when you're gaming, it's not a game. It's a lifestyle, buddy.
Late stages of Mr. Jobs' legal defense. But he did not...
When you're saving Morrowind from the Blight, when you're joining Dagoth to awaken Numidium to slay the Imperial dogs, does that sound like a game to you? That's the future of Tamriel, dude.
Fund Mr. Jobs for a time in the middle of the case. Here's the clip of Mr. Jobs himself explaining how this happened.
But I had some good news recently. It hasn't fully come. I haven't gotten the money yet. But right at the beginning of the lawsuit, right, Notch, the creator of Minecraft, he said he made a tweet saying, "Hey, Carl, I'm going to pay your legal bills. I'll pay all your legal bills." And I'm like, "Hell yeah, that's awesome." And then I messaged him, and I'm like, "Are you sure about that, man? You sure you want to pay my legal bills?" He's like, "Yep, I want to go through with it." So he got me in contact with his manager, and then she started paying my legal bills. And like 3 months in, the manager's like, "We want to stop supporting you."
For context, the lawsuit started in September 2020.
Dude, imagine going on some fucking bozo like Kumalat and talking about the specifics of your lawsuit, like it's lawsuit funding, and also people not supporting you because there's sus shit going on about where the money is going. This guy, you know what? Who do you think has wasted more money? Karl Jobs with this borderline $1 million judgment against him, or Kumalat crashing, 3 stock cars? I think he's crashed at least 2. It might be 3.
21. 2. Mr. Jobs exhausted the money that Notch gave him.
Hold on, I'm pulling that up. I want to see this guy crash. There we go. Like, I'm just thinking, like, the Karl Jobs interviewing with this guy, talking about, like, talking anything about finances. It's just so funny.
The incident involving 15 race cars right here, all over the place. Cleanup continues after this.
This is your guy. This is your guy you're talking about your funding for your lawsuit.
In every car. Oh, sideways into the wall. Trying to get a number on that.
The 11, Cody Dennison, the 11, but a lot of cars involved. Sean Core, the 8, left side of your screen.
What number is he?
Catherine Legg in the 23 was hard into that inside
There's
wall
Elio,
right there.
Elio spinning the bottom of your screen. Thad Moffitt.
Sean Core.
So surprised to see that this early when we just mentioned how much
this early. They're like, wow, this guy must be retarded to crash on fucking lap 5. Oh my god, lap 5 of 8, he's already crashing out.
It looked like they were giving good space, good gaps, and the 11 just took off, got loose on the turn 4 there.
I was just about to
I'm pretty sure this is his second crash too.
mention Thad Moffitt. He's full-time this year. And then Catherine Legg, such an accomplished racer, open wheel.
Wait, they let girls race with guys? I thought they were 2 different leagues.
Sports cars. Her
Whoa.
This is taking out a lot of really strong cars in this race. This will change the dynamic.
On that.
Cody
did. So yeah, this is your guy.
In or about May of 2022. And he then offered to settle the case. Mr. Jobs said this himself on October 9th, 2024, in the comment section of a YouTube video. I'll read the relevant parts. In May 2022, I made a settlement offer. Originally, when I made the offer, I had spent nothing because Notch was paying. As you can see here, this isn't me acting as if I know Mr. Jobs' legal bills. These are his words. 3.
Yeah, this is like, this guy just won't shut the fuck up. That's the problem. Is that he talks about everything that he's not supposed, like when it comes to this legal stuff that you just do not talk about, like where the money comes from, exactly the finances and stuff. And you might say, well, he needs some transparency if he's going to ask for money from people. True, but that's why you don't do that, number one. And number two, if you do it through your lawyers who set up like a trust, kind of the way Josh did with the body cam footage.
6 months of silence passed between Mr. Jobs receiving the correspondence concerning a potential second lawsuit and then him opening his GoFundMe campaign. Now I'm going to place these 3 facts into the overall context. On May 10th, 2022, Mr. Jobs published a video about me that led my lawyers to send a concern notice to his lawyers. On May 22nd, 2022, Mr. Jobs and I were scheduled for mandatory mediation in the already existing lawsuit, one and only lawsuit. Before the mediation, my lawyers emailed his lawyers a copy of a legal complaint related to the concerns notice, and my lawyers said that I would proceed with the complaint unless the current lawsuit resolved at the mediation. The current lawsuit did not resolve, but I chose not to begin a second lawsuit, even though my lawyers felt that the second claim was meritorious. No further developments occurred after May 22nd.
So, okay, let me boil this down. Basically, Karl tells the world there's 2 lawsuits. One of them is, and he mentions once. Once is about Apollo Legend, which is the one he eventually lost, and then another one is the one about cheating. Billy never filed the one about cheating. Karl doesn't tell anybody that. He's not open and honest about that, and continues raising money under the guise of there being 2 lawsuits. That is what Billy is pointing out here in a very analytical and rational way, showing Karl's own words. This is how you address this stuff. Not talking in your Discord about how you're going to evade bankruptcy or about how you're going to totally financially rape people when you win them in a lawsuit. And it's just such a difference between like an actual man and a like swamp speedrunning creature. The swamp speedrunning creature shares their Pornhub, thinks lawsuits are weapons, names their son after their penis, puts their family's future on the line over cheating at video games, and thinks that he's like the king dick of YouTube just because he exposes a bunch of retards for being retarded. Meanwhile, Billy focuses on what he's good at, runs an actual business that's totally separate from gaming, while also being the best gamer ever, has a white wife, has kids that support him and stand by him, you know, that aren't named after his penis, that are named after his, you know, his long family progeny. It's just, the stark contrast could not be more clear.
Relating to that concerns notice and the complaint emailed to Mr. Jobs' lawyer. The complaint was not filed. The complaint was not served. My lawyers did not email Mr. Jobs' lawyers after the mediation to request that he accepted service of a second lawsuit. It was complete silence. And as I showed earlier, at this time, May 22nd, 2022, the funds that Mr. Notch gave to Mr. Jobs ran dry. In July of 2022, Mr. Jobs submitted an application to the court of what effectively amounted as a Hail Mary attempt to dismiss the lawsuit. That didn't pan out for him. For the sake of brevity, I'll continue on, but I'll leave an explanation of that application in the description of the video.
Now, if this is what I think it is, I kind of contest. Let's look. If it's the equivalent of in the U.S. to a Rule 15 motion, which is failure to state a claim, that's not a Hail Mary. That's pretty regular procedure, but it could not be. Order me pay securities for costs. Oh, no, it's not. Yes, this is a Hail Mary. This is just trying to make Billy put up money. That way he has a conversation with his lawyers about rate of return, where basically they say, hey, do you want this money to sit here at a lower interest rate than if you had just put it on the stock market to keep this going? That's what this is. And because Billy's a king and is doing this on principle, not for money, he said yes, which just makes Billy look better. And it makes Billy look like he's actually defending his reputation. He's not just here for money. So great. Good job.
At the time Mr. Jobs had lost his financial backing from Notch, Notch's money was exhausted. He had failed to dismiss the case. He needed money, and he needed money now. But he knew his viewers may not open wallets if he was transparent about the true subject of the lawsuit. Here's what he does. On November 4th, 2022, he reaches back 6 months to May.
I'll say this. He made a point earlier that he doesn't need to pretend that he knows what Carl's thinking. He tells him. That line right there, he was kind of pretending. I would have just... I mean, I agree with him. I think he's totally right. But I mean, just from like a legal perspective, I would have just been like, you know, my theory about this, what I think that he may, I don't know, whatever. He's the king. He has sovereign immunity. He has sovereign immunity. He can say whatever he wants.
May of 2022, pulls out an old legal correspondent that never received follow-up, and he creates a GoFundMe campaign on the premise that he urgently needs financial support for a potential...
Damn, so yeah, he's claiming that he knowingly put it up saying that it was for a lawsuit that he knew was not filed. That's crazy. That makes him look so much worse.
...lawsuit. Carl, I do not accept the fact that you generally woke up 6 months after the last correspondence, and also after your financial support ran out from Notch, and you suddenly felt a need to crowdfund for a potential second lawsuit. You obviously knew the second lawsuit was not coming. Or at the very least, you were unsure if it ever was. You created a GoFundMe campaign with the knowledge and intent to fund the existing lawsuit on false premises. Period. End of paragraph. With that said, I feel it is important to address Mr. Jobs' principal argument against all this. His argument is that he opened the GoFundMe campaign because my lawyers told him that I provided instructions to commence a second lawsuit. His position is, if Billy lawyers said so, then why should I not believe them? Here's the clip of him saying that.
Then in 2020...
Yeah, dude, he's spitting fucking facts. Like I said, that this presumption at the end, there's a little bit here where he's coming to a logical conclusion. I am not saying he's not, but like coming, you know, to say earlier that is from his own words. But this conclusion at the end where he's like, no, this guy knew this lawsuit wasn't coming. He opened the GoFundMe anyway, citing that as the primary lawsuit, despite the fact that we hadn't talked in 6 months, despite the fact the first one had been filed and this one was explicitly not. It's just so damning to Carl. Like, it's sort of like the IDubbbz thing where like there's a certain point where you think that this guy's just an idiot, but then like as it gets worse, it seems more and more like maliciousness.
2022, Billy sent me a third concerns notice because of a video I released in April regarding one of Billy's witnesses accusing him of extortion. And he followed that up with another lawsuit, of which he sent to my lawyers and told them he was going to file it against me. And then he sent me a fourth concerns notice, saying he intended to sue me because I put a 10-second AVGN meme in a video completely unrelated to Billy. Billy was now threatening me with 3 simultaneous lawsuits. The first one had already cost $200,000 in the first year alone. So if Billy filed the second and third lawsuits, there was no way I could afford to defend myself.
Here's the problem. Mr. Jobs testified under oath at trial, quote, "I don't believe anything Billy Mitchell says," end of quote. So apparently the only time Mr. Jobs ever believes me is after 6 months pass without follow-up, and he stands to gain $200,000 from his audience. In my opinion, the irony of Mr. Jobs' behavior here is that this misleading and disingenuous behavior is the exact type of behavior that he attacks people for in his videos. And the harsh reality is he uses these tactics on most subject matters, not just this one.
Kill shot.
Based upon Mr. Jobs' I lost video, it appears that he plans to dispute the factual findings of the judgment. And based upon his Discord messages, it appears that he's planning a broader revenge campaign against not only me, but my
Did you hear him mispronounce Discord? That means he's never used it, which is why he's a king.
family? My hot sauce company? Here's what I'll say of that with the information available to me today. It's very easy for a YouTuber to create a self-serving video with an unopposed narrative shaped by them. It is not easy to present those arguments in a court of law.
So the other fucking true. Everybody thinks that. They think that the court is just like making YouTube drama videos, and then they go, and then they just get completely destroyed because like a well-functioning legal system is a crucible that boils all down all the bullshit and lets everybody fight until all that's left is the truth. And the truth is not what you put in some stupid YouTube video. The truth is a combination of two sides with mutually exclusive claims and mutually exclusive interests having a fight until one wins.
I can argue back and win. Remember, Mr. Jobs already received his opportunity to argue anything and everything that he claimed in his I lost video, or may claim in a future video. Remember that despite all these allegations that he hurls with inflammatory languages, it is ultimately him who the court found to not be a credible witness. Let's review an example of this in his I lost video. He says this.
I will say one thing though, the judge found Billy Mitchell to be a credible witness, and essentially accepted his full oral testimony as fact, despite our many attempts to show that Billy is a liar. For example, we have Billy on video in 2023 during his Twin Galaxies deposition saying that the effect I've had on him is minimal.
Did the actions that Carl Jobs and David Race and Jeremy Young and Jeff Harris take also cause you emotional distress?
That is minimal compared to this. At that moment in my deposition, I was discussing the allegations related to video games, not a
Yeah, exactly. Like he just totally took that quote out of context. Like that's so dishonest, is to show his answer to the question without the question and to not show the full answer. And also he said compared to this, so even in the clip he showed, it suggests that there is that he's relating it to something that Carl doesn't show.
Apollo legend. The questioner listed a series of individuals in lawsuits with me that all related to video games in one way or another, either in the complaint, in the defense, or as a broader background text. All while sitting in a deposition for a Twin Galaxies lawsuit. Then, when the questioner asked why, I said because this is where it all began. Because my answer related specifically to Twin Galaxies and video games. Mr. Jobs will likely respond by playing a segment of my deposition. I'll play it here and then discuss.
What about Carl Jobs? Why are you suing him?
Carl Jobs has nothing to do with video games. He's being sued because he's blaming the death of an...
Exactly. And he just says it straight up in the part of the clip that he took up. That the part that he's getting sued for, the part that's of any material impact, has nothing to do with video games.
Individual, Apollo legend, on me.
You're suing him for defamation for making that claim?
Has nothing to do with video games. These two clips of my deposition were two entirely different lines of questioning that occurred hours apart. In the first clip, my answer related to multiple individuals across lawsuits connected to video games in one way or another, including Mr. Jobs, but not only Mr. Jobs. In the second clip, my answers concern specifically Mr. Jobs and the amputations in my complaint against him. Context is everything. What does Mr. Jobs not do in his I Lost video? He doesn't present any opposing argument to his narrative.
That's such bad practice, is to play from a deposition and not play the full question and the full answer. That's so bad.
Despite hearing my explanation, my deposition testimony at the trial, and despite reading the judgment's reasoning for accepting my testimony on this issue, he just omits everything and presents his position as fact. This tactic of omitting inconvenient information to his desired narrative is common in Mr. Jobs' videos generally, not just the videos about me, all of his videos. Here's an example from his I Lost video.
To be clear though, I never said Billy caused Apollo's suicide, nor have I ever believed that. No one is responsible for Apollo's decision other than Apollo.
That's such a dumb lie because it's literally the entire material element of the lawsuit, which he lost.
Very clear statement from Carl there. He never believed that anyone was responsible for Apollo's decision except Apollo. Well, let me show you in an exchange that occurred between my barrister and Mr. Jobs while he was on the witness stand at trial. Here, Mr. Jobs is saying to the court, to the judge, that he did in fact believe that I was a factor in Apollo Legends' decisions.
Oh no.
And before you ask, yes, Mr. Jobs said this while under oath. You can make up your own mind, but it appears to me, yes, Mr. Jobs said.
So you say that you have your opinion regarding the impact of the settlement. Does that mean, in your opinion, Mr. Mitchell was a contributing factor in Mr. Smith's suicide? Is that your opinion that you're referring to? And look, he shows the whole thing, like you should. That I'm referring to. Yeah, I don't know what my opinion was at the time. I'm sorry. Yeah, what was that? I missed it, mumbled away. I don't, because my opinion sort of has changed over time. As you know, it's been a few years. Do you want me to play that part again so you, okay, refresh your memory? Yeah, classic. Whenever a witness lies, you just play the thing before and play it in their face over and over again until they admit they lie. Okay, yes. So your opinion regarding the impact of the settlement, yes. On Apollo's decision, what was your opinion regarding the impact of the settlement on his decision? I believe that the settlement terms had some impact. I don't know what that impact was specifically, but I believe that it had some impact on his life. On him taking his life, I believe that it would have had some impact. Yes, there you go. So this is him saying that it wasn't all on Apollo, that it had an impact, that Billy Mitchell's actions, the settlement, directly had an impact. But you say on Apollo's decision. And look, he even clarifies that. Decision to take his life, isn't it? Yeah. So you accept that your opinion you're referring to there was that the settlement impacted Apollo's decision to take his own life. I believe that it may have. Yeah. So what are we supposed to believe? Him playing Minecraft in a video or his like sworn fucking statement? Get him, Billy. This is so devastating.
Said this while under oath. You can make up your own mind, but it appears to me.
Okay. I wouldn't necessarily say, so let's go back a step. Are you aware of that? Yeah, and this is just him establishing that his financial situation would have impacted his decision to commit suicide, and he believes that. You still say, okay, all right, is that part accurate? Yes. Do you still maintain that opinion? Yes. And this is the opinion that it impacted Apollo's decision, right? You say you still maintain that opinion, despite the fact that in Apollo's own words, he didn't blame Mr. Mitchell. Is that right? Yes. Oh my God, what a fucking piece of shit, man. And this is what Carl will say, is that like, oh, this was the court, so it's less reliable. It's like, buddy, you were under oath. No, this is way more reliable than your stupid Minecraft code.
That Carl either lied directly to his fans about this, or he lied to the court under oath.
Yeah, exactly.
Third example. When I settled my lawsuit with Twin Galaxies in January 2024, Twin Galaxies and Mr. Jobs jointly circulated a claim that I remained banned from Twin Galaxies competition. That is a lie. Here is the relevant clause to the settlement agreement with Twin Galaxies. Twin Galaxies will work to include...
It's so funny that so much of this is blown out by just him literally showing the basic documentation.
Any future score submissions by Mitchell to Twin Galaxies leaderboard, with such submissions having to go through the normal Twin Galaxies adjudication process. So what Twin Galaxies and Mr. Jobs claimed was that even though Twin Galaxies...
I will say it is risky showing this, because by him showing this, it means that Twin Galaxies can release the rest of the settlement agreement, which might not make him look good, but he must be confident that they're not going to do that, or that it's normal.
He said it would permit future score submissions from me. I remain banned from the Twin Galaxies competition. That just doesn't make any sense. As a result of these claims, I filed a motion to enforce settlement agreement on Twin Galaxies on May 30th, 2024. The court ruled in my favor. And the judge directly addressed this claim by Twin Galaxies as false. Here's what the judge said. I think it's a fair assumption that the intention was to at least allow for the possibility of the plaintiff to submit his scores. To me, this implies that he was not banned. In my opinion, the claim that I remained banned from Twin Galaxies competition was a coordinated effort by Mr. Jobs and Twin Galaxies to spread misinformation.
Yeah, well, no, what it was is just to continue to perpetuate this claim that Billy is this piece of shit who isn't trusted by anyone, and it's not just Carl who's going after him. It's this community consensus that's just entirely a lie.
These are just very, very dishonest people. But with that said, I will not be submitting any scores to Twin Galaxies because it has no authority. It has no purpose. At this point, Twin Galaxies is only relevant for its history.
Yep.
Today, Twin Galaxies has no physical place.
Yeah, you know why it's not relevant? Because he's not a part of it. Because this guy's the King Gamer, right? And if the King Gamer has not given his assent to this organization, then it is nothing.
It has no office. It has no in-person competition, no employees, no referees, no industry experts. In fact, Twin Galaxies today is one guy with no industry experience that runs a website from his apartment.
Owned.
He stands on nothing but the hard work and achievement
Destroyed.
of those who came before him and thinks money can buy him credibility. Next, Mr. Jobs and Twin Galaxies stated many times over the years that this photo shows a rule violation on one of my Donkey Kong World records because the joystick was red. That's not true. The joystick was compliant with the rules. In 2007, there was no written rules for competitive Donkey Kong. However, the general rule...
that's the other funny thing, is basically because the speedrunning community has become so autistic and so rules focused and so just internal infighting, it doesn't remember a time when playing video games was just a bunch of Giga Chads showing up at the arcade gaming. And so, like, even as late as 2007, like, they didn't have all these crazy rules and stuff. And so trying to import this dumb culture that's taken over onto this is it really just shows their hand.
Rule for all games was to use the original machine with a manufacturer's hardware or hardware that constitutes a like-for-like exchange. A like-for-like exchange is a functional equivalent. For example, in this case, if a four-way joystick installed by the manufacturer broke, you may install and use a different four-way.
Again, because this is from a time when, like I said, this was just guys getting together to play games. And if your machine is broken, you get a replacement part. And as long as it's, like you said, it's like for like, then of course you're going to do that. The new people don't understand that because they use all these dumb emulators and they're so used to this, literally the rules being the game instead of the experience, the communal experience of playing the game itself. They're so used to that they piddle over whether the fucking joystick is made out of the exact unobtainium that the Donkey Kong was 60 years ago or whatever.
Four-way joystick. That is why the joystick was compliant with the rules. The reason for the rule was that arcade video game manufacturers stopped producing parts in the 1980s.
Exactly. Like, it's a perspective that comes from not knowing anything about the background of, like, arcade games and stuff.
No arcade machine on this earth, at that time, for any game, had each and every part from the manufacturer. Nobody's scores would have been valid for that rule. Nobody's. In fact, even today, Donkey Kong World records occur with non-original hardware inside the control panel, based upon a like-for-like exchange rule, both the joystick and the buttons. Mr. Job also levies the claim that the joystick was an 8-way joystick, not a 4-way joystick. I don't think he understands how the arcade machine joysticks work. Any joystick may be any number of ways based upon how it is installed. It doesn't matter who the manufacturer of the joystick is. It doesn't matter what the manual says. It all depends on the restrictor plates inside of the arcade machine, which are not visible from the outside. In this instance, it was a 4-way joystick.
Sure, we'll look you up right now, buddy. Let's see. Let's see what kind of cringe shit we're going to find when we look this up. So we got a guy who makes watches. We got Donate Nazi. We got MREs, meal prep. Let's see what it is on Google. So I guarantee that this is going to be some cringe shit. Maybe we'll send you like an email through your submission form or whatever. Go. Did not find anything. Well, I looked you up, buddy. You need to have better SEO because I'm typing you into Google and you don't show up. If you're going to come in and try to get attention, then, you know, fix your SEO so that I can at least make fun of your website or whatever.
On a separate note, if Mr. Jobs' joystick claim was true, then both him and Twin Galaxies would have walked into court, would have shown the photo, and won their case. Instead, neither Mr. Jobs nor Twin Galaxies ever attempted to use this photo at any point in the trial or even in preparation. Despite the claim from Mr. Jobs that this photo was some kind of a smoking gun, his decision not to use it speaks volumes. Even in his I Lost video, Carl makes a claim that I'm a proven cheater, and that I've seen commentary from around the internet for years now where people claim that there's no doubt. It's obvious. It's been proved. Well, I ask you to consider this. Twin Galaxies had the opportunity to prove in court that I cheated. It couldn't. Carl Jobs, who was told by a billionaire, Notch, that he'd pay for the best legal representation possible, did not even try to prove that I cheated. If it's obvious, that's certain, so easily provable, Why does the claim suddenly fall apart as soon as it's taken out of the court of public opinion and into the actual court of law, where I have the right to reply and where real evidence is given by real people who swear under oath to tell the truth? And regardless, twin galaxies, what kind of defendant spends hundreds of thousands of dollars, even over $1 million according to his lawyer, litigating a case for 4 years to settle 3 months before trial?
Yeah, exactly. It means you're going to lose. It means your lawyer said you're going to lose.
Lastly, I recently learned that Mr. Jobs plans to engage in a revenge campaign on YouTube by creating videos about me, my family, and my hot sauce company. Imagine that.
The humble hot sauce merchant. He has cuck rage over hot sauce.
My family. It seems that the discount code Carl Lost deeply bothers him. On May 5th, 2025, at 3:02 a.m., Mr. Jobs wrote on Discord, "There are 2 videos that need to be made. One talking about the hot sauce company, one talking about how Billy needs to stand on things to make himself look taller in the photos. Carl, I'm 6'6". I don't need to do anything to look taller.
Yeah.
I've taken thousands of photos.
Pwned. Just like, come on, man. It's pathetic. He's already dead.
Of different types with fans since 1982. Some very serious, some nothing but fun. Meanwhile, you're 5'7". Cope harder."
That should have just been the video. It's just, I'm 6'6", you're 5'7". Get back to the communal farming settlement, sir.
Try not to stretch the truth. As for Mr. Jobs' plan to attack my hot sauce company, I don't know what he could possibly claim. I'm interested to know.
Yeah, for real. It's like, what? He's going to say it's poisonous or something? That's like serious stuff. Like anything he could claim that would hurt the company would, again, just be defamation.
What could possibly lead Mr. Jobs to believe that he knows the financials or the operational framework of a private company? It reminds me of a time where he claimed to know the terms of a confidential settlement agreement back in 2021. Of course, that's why we're all here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all for today, but don't forget to buy Ricky's world famous sauce, 10% off at rickysauce.com using the discount code CarlLost at the checkout. Thank you for watching.
I really hope there's a second part to this because this was completely devastating. He brings up at least 3 like material lies, and then obviously the galaxy. I know that there's more stuff about the cheating, that there's more claims. I don't care. Again, I don't care if he cheated. But yeah, he's 5'7", and that's really, what else can you say? All right, let's see. See if we can beat. Okay, we got some like South America, maybe Central American phenotypes. I guess this could also be Southeast Asia. It's easy to get those mixed up. But I'm seeing some jungle in the background. I guess it doesn't really narrow it down. I'm thinking either Malaya or South America. Approacher, you want me to put that on?
Hi, Carl Jobs here, creator of ApproachHerNow.com. And if you're looking to increase your level of confidence around women and decrease the amount of anxiety you feel when you want to approach women,
go up to them, compliment them, and then when they try to engage with you, run away like a scared little puppy. I played that video in my first Carl video where literally he goes up and one of the girl's friends that he compliments tries to engage him, like trying to like, you know, maybe like have a talk and just get to know each other, and he runs away.
Women, you've come to the right place. I have specifically created this website to help men who want more dates, relationships, and sex in their life, but just can't seem to make it happen because the act of approaching a woman is too difficult. Now you're
too difficult.
You'll know it. If we can just go out and approach, we're going to get a lot of success. And this is true for many reasons. And this is why it is so frustrating when we can't approach.
You know what this is? This is like, remember the King of the Hill episode where Bobby goes out with Boomhauer to learn Boomhauer's method for like getting all these girls? And it turns out his method is to just stand around at the shoe store and ask literally every single woman who walks in out, and then just through the sheer like law of averages, he always ends up with a girl. That's literally this, except at least Boomhauer goes on the date afterwards. He does that and then walks away.
We know that if we can just get over this one obstacle, everything is going to be okay. A lot of things are going to take care of themselves if we can just go out and try to meet a lot of women. This is actually true, and if we can just get over our approach anxiety, we're going to get a lot of success and quicker than we ever have before. If you found it difficult to approach women in the past, I can assure you it's not because there's something wrong with you. If you can't approach, it's because...
I mean, it is because of something wrong with you. It's like a lack of confidence, but you got to build that confidence. But he even agrees. That's why he's saying you should do this. So I don't know why he would say that.
Because you don't know how. And I don't mean...
know how. It's not... This like PUA stuff is so stupid. It's like there's no like miracle key. There's no skeleton key to the female brain.
You don't know what to say, and I don't mean you don't know what to do.
Yeah, prayers for his wife. I mean, again, did you know that he named his child after his penis? Isn't that insane? Like I said, just think about the distinction between this guy and Billy. Just like one is a man and the other one is a joke.
What I actually mean is that you don't understand how anxiety works, and you don't understand how to deal with it properly. I struggled with approach anxiety for 6 years. I went out to bars and clubs.
That's why you end up having to get a mail order wife.
Every weekend, hoping to approach. I actually went out with the intention of approaching. I would say to myself before I went out, I am going to approach this weekend. But the thing is, I couldn't. Something was stopping me. Now, this wasn't because I didn't know what to do either.
Okay, this is a contradiction. Earlier he says it's because you don't know how. He's like, it's not that you don't know how. This stupid 4-minute Coke video doesn't even make sense.
Spent years and literally thousands of hours studying dating advice. I knew what to say and how to say it.
I've read 99 articles on how to say hi to a girl.
But that didn't help me when it actually came to doing the things that I knew how to do. If I was out at a club and I saw an attractive woman I wanted to approach, I would start trying to talk myself into approaching her. So I would say things like,
no, it's got to be intuitive. You just got to jump in, man.
What's the worst that could happen? Or, there's plenty of fish in the sea. Or, if I don't try, I'm definitely going to fail. And the thing is, all those things didn't work. My mind wasn't in control. My body had taken over and just was not.
I wonder if he's going to try to copyright strike this. I guess he can't because he took it down himself, so it's not in the public. This weekend, we approach, yeah.
Letting me approach.
This weekend, we approach. Next weekend, we...
Now, luckily, during these 6 years, I had broadened my horizons a little bit. I started studying things like self-development and psychology. And what I actually realized is, a lot of the advice I had been hearing in the dating community about how to overcome anxiety was completely different to the advice given by psychologists on how to overcome anxiety. I started incorporating ideas from diet and exercise.
Men were asking girls out and having healthy relationships with women for thousands of years before psychology, buddy.
And I realized one of the reasons that a lot of us can't consistently approach is very similar to the reason that a lot of us can't consistently keep up a diet. And I realized that building confidence is very similar to building muscle. And once I started using this analogy, a lot of things started becoming a lot easier. Then, after 6 years...
Whoa, if you practice something, you'll get better. Whoa.
...of trying to overcome my approach anxiety, I had a realization that changed everything. Now, as soon as I had this realization, success started happening quicker than it ever had. I went from someone who couldn't approach at all to someone who could approach whenever I wanted. Now,
then how did you okay.
This change wasn't instantaneous. I still had to do a little bit of work. But just to compare, I had more success in 1 month than I had had in 6 years of trying. And just as I had predicted, success with women came shortly after. This website contains my realizations. If you read, learn, and apply the information I'm giving you, you are going to get success quicker than you ever have. I have absolutely no doubt about that. It worked for me, and it has now worked for many men. Before you start reading, I want to give you one final thought. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how famous you are. It doesn't matter how much money you make. If you have enough confidence, you can get as much...
All those things matter. However, he is right that confidence is the most important aspect. The problem is you do not exude confidence. You exude cuck rage.
...success with women as you want. Now, let me say that again. If you have enough confidence, you can get as much success with women as you want. And the best part is, confidence is something we know how to build. If you enter in your email address on the left, I'll send you my free ebook, which tells you...
I'll send you my Pornhub account name so you can follow it. He was literally doing that in Discord. Isn't that crazy?
Everything you need to know about how to overcome your approach anxiety. And if you'd like, you can speak with me directly, one-on-one, in one of our online coaching sessions.
Whoa. I wonder how much these were. Is there any proof of what the cost was? Yeah, approach bankruptcy now. All right, what were we doing? Either Malaya or South America. I'm going with Malaya, guys. Nope, Central America. See, I knew it was one or the other. Central Asian. Yep. This is like East African, but it's like... I don't know, I could even see it being like Sudanese. Oh, wow. No, it's Polynesian. A special kind of like Aboriginal Polynesian. Whoa. New species. Yeah, exactly. Approaches women. It's like, did you know that in 2007, Billy Mitchell used a red controller, which indicates that it was not regulation? Oh, I was closer on that one, at least. I should have got more points for that. Okay. See, I'm always hyper vigilant for one of these being Aboriginal, and then I always think that they are, and then it's just another African. But this does look Aboriginal. Yeah. Oh, this is like Ainu. Because look at the frizzy hair. That's very not Jomon. I could even see this being Kamchatkan. Like up here. Like Inuit. No, I'm retarded. At least it's easy to tell the Native Americans because you can see their clothes and stuff. Plained. I think I got plained before. This is Nilotic. Yeah. Oh, it's Oromo. But yeah, pretty much the same. Oh, look. The Eternal Swarthoid. What is this? Argentinian? Maybe Syrian? Azerbaijani? I'm going to go with that. No, Omani. Yemenid. Really? Okay, this is like Congolese. Close. I did worse that time. Let's see how we do on Doggo Guesser. If I just keep doing this every time before I end the stream, and like, since I stream so often, like 3 times a week, I will eventually be an expert, guys. Oh my god, look at this guy. Look how fluffy he is. He's big and fluffy. This is a is this an Akita? I think it's an Akita. Yeah. Oh, I know this one. I've gotten this one before. This is a Russian toy dog. See, I'm learning, guys. Yep. This is a massive... See, this could be the Roman, like, fighty dog. It looks a lot like the Roman war dogs from southern Italy. I bet it's not. I bet it's some hybrid that went to America, but... Oh, no, I wasn't that far off. Oh, look at this guy. He's like a fox, kind of. He's in snow. Okay, we got a clue. I'm going to think Russia or Canada. Or like... Well, this kind of looks like Switzerland or something. I'm not really sure. I could also see this being some kind of wild dog of Central Asia, like, you know, like Nepal, Tibet, whatever. I don't really know. I'm just going to guess. Although this doesn't look like Tibet. I'm going to say southern Germany. Norway. Oh, that's a good guess. I could have probably gotten there. Oh, look at this guy. Look, it's William the Conqueror. Patton had one of these. Named him William the Conqueror. It's an English bulldog. Little puppy. They're from Normandy, though, right? No. Miniature bull terrier. For some reason, I thought they originated in Normandy. Oh, this is a big fluffy guy. Big fluffy guy. Okay. This is a Central Asian guy, I'm pretty sure. No, gray Norwegian. Huh. Usually the ones like this that are gray and white, but aren't like really big, are like Central Asian Shepherd type dogs. We got a poodle. Yeah. Bird dog. This one could also be northern France, honestly, though. I think I've had this one before, and I'm just going to mess it up again. Istrian? No, this is a totally different one. Istrian short-haired hound. Wow. Look at his big floppy ears. Billy Dog Premium. Why am I just getting dog food? Why are they putting dog food ads in my freaking puppy guesser game? Billy's from France? I didn't know that. Whoa. Whoa. It's big. This looks like an Australian Shepherd. Nope, Romanian Shepherd. They look very similar. I was in the top 15% this time, though, so I am getting better. All right. What's happening?
And Viz5 or Vision on Twitch and Lag Kills on Twitch, thank you.
Yeah, it looks like now that they heard that the actual army's going in, everybody's quieting down. Imagine that, guys. Imagine the idea of deterrence. Really crazy stuff. Alright, well, that's it for today. I'll have another stream on Wednesday, but I won't this Friday, and I don't think next Monday, because I have an adventure over the weekend. I know it sucks because it's like the off-Kai thing, and everyone's covering Gator, but I think Persif's going to do a big stream, and honestly, it's best that he gets his little spotlight and has this whole thing. Unfortunately, it also means I probably won't be able to call in and yell at Persif. I'd like to, it'd be fun, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm hoping we get more Gator humiliation where he tries to hit on a VTuber. I think it's going to be Kino. But I will be here on Wednesday. Maybe something will happen by then. Everybody pray something, well, not with the riots. I don't want anything to happen there. Those coins better still be in the sound. They are. I specifically wanted to get to a place where I was like high up and like a pier. That way it didn't look like I was just throwing them in the ocean. They'd wash back to me. I wanted to like just drop them and they'd be gone. And,
I'm not aware that...
I think Kilkino Casino's theories are pretty fucking hilarious. The ones about a string. I mean, obviously you can see there's no string. I don't even know how that would work. But if you want some more confirmation, just look at the very end of the video. You can see the ripples in the water that clearly like it hit the water. I don't know how you would get down there, honestly, from where I was. I know it's shallow, but that's just because it's like a pier and it's over the water near where I can throw it. But I'm glad that whole arc had a good, satisfying resolution. I don't want to skip off, Kai, dude. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Hey, guys, I want to repeat.
It was not... the plans I have for this weekend were made a long time ago. And, you know, it's Father's Day, so... Some of us actually have our fathers in our lives, unlike some website forum owners. But, yeah. Like I said, I think Persif's going to do a giant super show, dude. I think we're going to be eating good. Don't worry.
I don't have permission. So maybe in the future we'll work it out again where we can do it. But again, I can only do it if even though I'm paying for it, I only can do it with permission. Oh, they're telling that person to back up, I guess. But we might have a different feed I can use. Maybe. Look at this.
I love them whining about billionaires. Meanwhile, 90% of like billionaires, 90% of middle managers all support literally this ideology. The billionaires want mass immigration. You are here protesting for them, not the police who are just like following orders essentially. And that's not me like saying like the police do not also uphold that system. They do, but saying that they're class traitors makes this completely ignores your own accountability and your own position on this in relation to the people you're supposedly protesting against.
That's what Bill Malugin says.
Total delusion. Yes, mass immigration is totally.
Oh, AXN said I could restream. I gotta go back. I gotta then I'll have to rewind AXN stream and hear it for myself. Because I got to be sure with this stuff. I'll have to rewind his stream and try to hear it. If you give me a time code or something, I can listen to it. I'll try to listen to it now. Yeah, again, I paid him for a stream last night. He was great. He's awesome. How long ago did he say that? Did he post it, or did he say it? And he said it 2 minutes ago, people said? Yeah, I just gotta find it.